order at 7:02. And let's see, let the record show that we've got all trustees except for Dr. Palace, who we believe is on his way. And we've got both of our student board reps, which is a miracle because it's finals week. Please head out whenever you need to. We understand. And could you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and we're on to item 7.1, which is approval of the agenda, and I would take a motion.
I move that we approve the agenda.
I've got a motion from Catherine, a second from Debbie to approve the agenda as presented. Ava, how would you like to vote? Thank you. And Riley? Aye. Thank you. Back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Okay, so that takes us to item 8, which is our report out from closed session. And item 8.2 was our personnel report for the evening. And shall I turn it over to you, Dr. Meyer?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I have the honor of introducing someone who was approved unanimously during closed session. And it is Julie Vo, who was just appointed Director of Adult Education. So congratulations, Julie. A few things about Julie. She is a longtime MVLA educator, and she had, before joining MVLA, she worked at the San Jose Evergreen Community College District, where she served as Associate Dean of their Adult Education and Basic Skills program. She was also an education leader with the South Bay Consortium for Adult Education. Julie earned her bachelor's degree in English and sociology from the University of California, Berkeley, and her master's in education from Stanford University. She holds teaching credentials in social studies and English and has taught at the secondary level for community college and for high school. Julie served as assistant director under Brenda Harris, who we have here this evening as well. And she has more than 20 years of experience in the field of education with expertise in educational leadership, English as a second language, curriculum development, assessment, grant writing and management, career technical education, and data analysis. She has served on the MVLA leadership team for over 14 years and has supervised both the career technical education and adult secondary and adult basic ed programs. So our adult education program is in the business of changing lives. And so with that, we officially recognize and congratulate Julie Vo. Julie.
Julie, do you want to come up and say a few words? Can you guys hear me okay?
It's hard to tell.
It's a little hard to tell.
Test.
Sure. Yeah, this is on. They're on. Okay.
Straight for the live stream audience.
Okay. Okay, I'll just try and speak really close to my. Go ahead, Julie.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to thank the Board of Trustees, our superintendent, and our administrative cabinet for the opportunity to be selected as the Director of Adult Education. I want you all to know that this is not a role that I take lightly by any means. It's very important to me, and I will work my hardest to do the best that I can to serve this district and its students.
We're very lucky to have you, and I'll give a quick nod to Brenda in the back. We're sorry to say goodbye, Brenda, but we're so grateful that we're in good hands. What do you pointing at Phil. Oh, come on in, Phil. Sorry, Phil's sneaking in the side door here.
Just a comment, Brenda, your wonderful celebration will be recognized later on this evening in my superintendent report, but congratulations and thank you for all you have given to our district, and best wishes with the grandchildren.
Okay. So this takes us to item 9.1, which is an update on 231 grant educator housing project. So this is a partnership with Supervisor Smedian's office, and we have a team here tonight to give us an update. And sorry, Dr. Meyer, if you wanted to do more of an intro.
That's perfect. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. My name is Kelly Hollywood. I am with Mercy Housing, who is one of the co-developers of this development at 231 Grant. Oh, thank you so much. With me this evening, I have Sarah Chafin, who is our community liaison, who some of you might have met in the past, and also Catherine Alexander, right? Yeah, superb. With the Supervisor Smedian's office. So we're pleased to be here, and thank you so much for having us. So we're here tonight to talk about 231 Grant Avenue, which is a development in partnership with Supervisor Smedian's office, Mercy Housing, who I represent, and Abode Communities, who is our other development partner. Let me see if I can. Okay, there we go. We concluded introductions. We're going to go over a project summary. We're going to give a design update, a financing summary, and a schedule update. And we do anticipate this being one of many conversations we have. So please feel free to ask questions before, after, or we're happy to get back to you with any more information provided following this presentation. So the development located in 231 Grant Avenue is just off of California Avenue in Palo Alto. It is 110 units, including studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. It's a range of income ideal to serve AMIs of area median incomes of 60 to 140% AMIs. It's going to be utilizing modular design and technology, which is a different form of construction that will help to speed up some of the construction process. It's a 4-story building that will demolish an existing county building and take the place in this residential neighborhood. It will include 112 vehicular parking spaces. It's about 1 per unit at the moment. We have 134 secure long-term bicycle parking spaces. We also include several public plazas along Grant Avenue and a little over 1,000 square feet of flex space, which we're still working to program. So I'm going to walk you through the program of this now. So on the ground floor, let's see, on the ground floor of Grant Avenue, you can see there's a welcome grove right in the middle. So that's the main lobby. And off this space, there is a residential community room. There is property management offices that both the tenants and the property management team can use. There are 5 ground floor residential units that have little stoops that can walk up to it, adding to the residential character of the neighborhood. There's a large residential community room on the right-hand side, you can see, and that has a community porch that's added to that. And we really feel that that's kind of one of the front entries and kind of places where both the community and neighborhood will blend with the residents of this building. There's a flex space you can see at the far right, along with a little plaza there at the corner. And we anticipate this being a community serving flex space, anything from after school programs to dance or fitness classes, but we're working on the programming of that as well. In the back, you can see there, this is our parking lot, and it's actually at grade, but underneath the housing. So it won't be visible from the street, but you'll be able to get into it through a secured access door. And we're utilizing parking stackers, which is a type of technology that will stack the cars. And so that we can achieve getting 112 parking spaces in there. It's a very interesting technology, so you might have questions on that, I can see. But so that's kind of the lay of the ground floor. And then up above that, you can see this is where the majority of our residential units sit. This is repeated up 2 additional stories beyond this, so it's a similar program. You can see we have residential units and studios, 1 bedrooms to 2 bedrooms that surround 3 central courtyards. The courtyard all along the west, that's more of our active courtyard with picnic tables, barbecue spaces, areas to play games or study. There's the central courtyard, which is really designed to really activate and be of more fitness to move your body. So there's a play space in the center, a large space for yoga or workout classes, or to play with your children in the center there. The east courtyard is more of a private courtyard in the sense that there's a lot smaller picnic tables. So we're envisioning that as a place for people to study, to have small meetings, tutoring sections, for you to work on your homework after school in that area. And then in the back, you can see there's also a dog run that we anticipate. People love having their small animals in the building. So we wanted to accommodate that as well. Most of these units can accommodate, singles, couples, or up to small families. And we anticipate that the 2-bedroom units will also have washer and dryers in them. There is a laundry room that you can see off the central courtyard that will serve the rest of the building. Okay, next. So in that building, there's 110 units. And of those 110 units, 12 units are allocated to Mountain View Los Altos School District. As I mentioned, that mix of the 12 units will be a combination of studio, 1 and 2 bedroom units. The current distribution of that is 3 studios, 7 1 bedrooms, and 2 2 bedrooms. And how we base this off of is we did some extensive surveys about a year ago. We had reached out to your school district and surveyed a number of teachers and staff within the district about their household size, their income size, their salary ranges. And we tried to place that accordingly. And we did that to each of the participating districts to try to narrow that down. The units will be offered to the school districts of eligible participants on a lottery system. And that will be done with participation from the referrals from the school district. We anticipate the total investment from the school district to be $600,000. That's $50,000 per unit. The funds will be provided through the County of Santa Clara, and an agreement will be drafted between the county and the school district for how those funds will be dispersed and administered to the development team. The school districts will enter into that agreement, and the county's working on that right now. I just wanted to give you a quick update on that. The funds we anticipate we'd like to be committed by April 2022, and we realize that's coming up quickly, so we want to kind of spearhead this off and make sure that we are answering your questions and have follow-up dates to present to you in the future. The funds are considered grant funds, and no payments or residual seats will be provided to the project. They're considered a long-term commitment to the project. Our quick schedule update is we are going through our draft EIR process right now. We anticipate entitlements approvals in January. So we had a public EIR meeting in October. We have a board of supervisors meeting that at the time of this presentation wasn't set, but is now set for January 11th. And so we will be going to the board of supervisors to get approval on both the environmental impact report and the project through the County of Santa Clara. We anticipate following that approval, submitting for a demo and building permit this coming spring. And with that, our permitting time should allow us to start construction in the fall of 2020. And we would be concluding our construction about two years later. So we anticipate opening up in the first quarter of 2024, which would be when we start leasing units. I'm going to pause there. You may have questions. I'm happy to answer those now or follow up with you at a later time.
Yeah. Either one of Debbie, go ahead.
Could you remind me of the 110 units total? We have 12. Do you know what the distribution of the other 98 is?
Yes, so there's 5 participating school districts, and each of those school districts will have 12 units, and they're equally all contributing $600,000, $50,000 for those units. However, there are 32 units that have been offered to what we're kind of terming as the Facebook units, which there is an existing Facebook housing program in Menlo Park that includes 22 units, and 22 of those units will be relocating to 231 Grant. And then they're getting an additional 10 units. Those units are teachers and educators that are serving Ravenswood School District. Mainly within like the Ravenswood School District surrounding kind of that Menlo Park area. And then from that, we have an additional 17 units. So I think I've kind of counted that right. We have an additional 17 units that haven't been allocated that we're working on allocating right now. But the basis is that they're all kind of offered for similar prices. And maybe I didn't mention this, but part of Facebook's contribution is they're contributing 25 million to the project in order for those units to be allocated to that district.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A serious reservation about the part that says these will be considered a grant.
Okay.
Though it was not the understanding that we had when we entered this program.
Okay.
We entered with the understanding that we would be able to recover our $500,000, which I believe it was at the time, but let's say it's 600,000 now. And I don't understand how that changed.
Okay, I can definitely work on getting back to you about the history of that. I believe that was part of the discussion that was early on
No,
with the
it was at
supervisor's
the
office.
meeting where it was approved.
Okay, that completely understandable. Let me find out more about how it came to be and where we got to where we are, and I can get back to you on that.
Yeah, because we had this discussion, I remember quite clearly, when this came up. And Joe Simidian was here and we approved it, but we made it very clear. And I got an email from Kevin Forestieri over at The Voice asking me what was said, and I could get that email and send it to you.
No problem. I completely understand the context of the conversation. I wasn't a part of it, so I want to go back and find out, and I can get back to you, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't think the dollars have changed. I think it's always been 600. I think the dollars have always been 600,000. I don't think the dollars have changed at all.
That's fine.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Yes, mine is not as substantial of a question or concern as that, but I was just wondering what the approximate square footage of each of those sizes are. I mean, the picture is a nice picture, but it doesn't say things like that.
Yeah, sizes of the units. So they range in size from about like 350, 375 square feet to about 750 square feet. They're definitely compact units. And you can see, we really try to maximize the efficiency of the units. Our architect Van Meter Williams Pollock has really worked on trying to get this down to a really efficient unit size. But we really have been focusing on a lot of the amenity spaces that we're providing in this building and really want the comforts of someone's home to spill out into those amenity spaces so that they're really an extension of their use, and they really get personal use out of those spaces.
I just want to say one other thing. This project's been going on for a long time, and Joe Simidian was like a front runner for it. And I really do appreciate the fact that you've continued to make it happen at a timely manner, and that we possibly may actually be seeing some of our teachers or staff being able to have a residency that's able to be affordable to them locally. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just add one comment. I'm sure you've already heard this and thought about this, but with the modular construction and when you stack them like that, you just have to be really careful with the material that you use for the ceilings and floors so that the folks in the unit upstairs don't sound like elephants to everybody below.
Yes, that is it. We are working on the acoustic requirements for that just now. And the interesting thing with modular construction is the floors and ceilings and the walls all get doubled up. So actually the acoustic separation between the units actually is pretty substantial. But thank you for the comment. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. And we will get back
Thank
to you with understanding the history of the financial piece. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for being here, Kelly. Thank you to the whole team. that takes us to item 10.1, which is board member reports. Anybody have, yeah, go ahead.
I just have one announcement I'd like to make. So Hope's Corner is having their annual toy drive. And it's going on right now. It's been going on for the last 2 weeks, and it actually ends this Wednesday. So we'd like to collect toys for kids in need in our community. And so if anybody would like to, give toys to Hope's Corner, you can always go to Hope's Corner, which is located on at Trinity Church on the corner of Hope and Mercy in downtown Mountain View. And we're mainly looking for kids, the toys or gift card for teenagers. That's where you have a lot of kids. We have a lot of toys for young kids, but anywhere between 9 to teenage years is where we would like to get the most amount of toys. So I'll make that announcement. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I know you've worked on this project for many years, Sanjay. Thank you for continuing to be part of it. Anybody else? Nope. Okay. That takes us to student board member reports. Avid, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So it's been a very busy couple weeks since last time we had a board meeting. Obviously the semester is wrapping up. This week is finals week for both Mountain View and Los Altos. And about 2 weeks ago, we had our first Candidly Speaking event at Mountain View. It was in collaboration with Los Altos through a program, basically just fostering like organic discussions. And we had a kind of small turnout as far as people outside of ASB. So that's something that we're debating on continuing, whether that's something that we want to prioritize in the future. So we've been having discussions about that in ASB. And we had a community holiday movie night on December 3rd at Mountain View. So that was a nice holiday event for everyone. It was on the lacrosse field. And for the future events that are coming up, we're having a spike ball tournament in January. And then we're also having Culture Week within the first couple weeks of January. And we're going to do some things like a fashion show. The class cabinets are working together to put on different activities. So that will definitely be exciting. We're also working on winter ball planning dance committee, which is going to be around Valentine's Day, so February time. And last week at the congressional meeting, I put out a survey to the congressional meeting reps and ASB, which was there, just kind of to collect some semester like suggestions, recap. So I wanted to just read out some of the student quotes from that survey. There was a lot of positive and feedback things. So some things that people really liked were free lunch and breakfast. That was stressed a lot. I saw that comment a lot, how people appreciated because a lot of the students were very dependent on that food. So they believe that that should be continued. We have a comment that I really enjoyed everything about being back on campus and would never want to go back to online, which I think is pretty agreed upon. Then there were some comments on the schedule. Some people really liked the schedule. Other people said that the passing periods are maybe a little too long and then brunch and lunch a little too short. And then there was some comments on biking and cars in the morning with traffic, which I know like we've heard before, it's a bit of a hard issue to fix just considering how compact everything is with the construction. There was a lot of comments on the lack of dead week before finals, which is basically where there's no extra work or tests. Lots of comments on academic stress that has really been building up this year. One of the comments said that there is an excessive amount of homework and study material and people are just stressed handling it all. And it's difficult understanding why this is expected after a year of distance learning. So that was one of the comments that was made. Another comment was, I like the campus support and academics available. I would like to see more options for graduation, such as through credit by examination programs, such as CLEP exams. That would make it easier for students to graduate early. Another comment was that they felt that seniors might need to receive more support for college applications. And they felt that at Mountain View is very stressful with finals and college apps. So that could be something that could be considered in the future. There was a comment saying that this person really appreciated the amount of effort that each and every staff member has placed into creating a more safe environment and normal environment this year at Mountain View. And lastly, one of the comments that was made that I saw a couple times as well was that the semester, they felt that the semester went really well considering all the restrictions with COVID and everything. However, they felt that the school and specifically teachers have a bit of learning to do on how to support students and looking out for their well-being. So especially during this like high stress environment, I think a lot of students are a little bit overwhelmed. So probably working towards that in the future, but yeah, thank you.
I'm taking notes.
I think you could send that to the board though.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you include me?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for walking through that.
Yep.
That's, I definitely appreciate it. Riley.
Okay. Our biggest event that finished up in November was our food drive that we do every year, raising money for the Second Harvest Food Bank. And we raised over $29,000 this year, which is a really big accomplishment. We raised money both taking shifts outside of Draggers and then also within our school and donating online. Last week was our SCL Student Community Leaders Wellness Week. And every day they had dress-up days and activities at lunch to try to bring attention to the importance of just kind of relaxing the week before finals and focusing on mental health. And my favorite day was on Thursday. Their dress-up theme was anything but a backpack day. And students brought shopping carts to school, buckets, trash cans. And it was really funny to see that. And that was probably the most participation I've ever seen in a dress-up day. And so that was really cool. I saw kids in there like driving little cars and things like that. And then last Friday, ASB had their pancake breakfast in the morning where every ASB student was walking around with a pan all day, which was kind of funny. But we made pancakes at probably over 200 for the student body, so that was super fun. And then the holiday fair was also last Friday, which was super cool to have that come back after a few years. And there were over 20 clubs that were selling a variety of foods. And the biggest hit was probably Green Team, and they sold a cup of dirt, which was chocolate pudding with gummy worms and things like that, but that went really well. ASB just finished its Gifts of Gratitude, and over 400 gifts were ordered by students, and they're basically free gifts they could order for another student online, and they got to write a cute note to them, and the gifts that were sent were either chocolates, fuzzy socks, toys, things like that. So that was a really large assembly line that was going on ASB, but that's always a really big hit. We had a food drive on December 7th, and 106 pints of blood were donated, which was a super big achievement. And so that was really cool to see. Like Ava said, we had our Candidly Speaking event in partnership with Mountain View that I heard went well, and that was at Mountain View but next time it's planned to be at Los Altos. We had 2 Avid students, or 4 Avid students, two from Los Altos, Diana and Nadeli, and 2 from Mountain View, and they won a national business competition in the Virgin Islands, which is super cool. And so that's a really big accomplishment by them. And in regards to construction, I noticed that the new gym was finished, which is really exciting. It's been a long time coming. And so I know the basketball team's been practicing in there. We had our choir perform. They had a winter concert last week, and then they also got to perform at the tree lighting ceremony downtown Los Altos. I don't know if anyone here was there, but I actually was going to see a club's tree get lit up, and then I happened to see that choir, both Mountain View and Los Altos was performing, which was a super cool event. And our marching band, which also walked in the annual Festival of Lights Parade, which I bet most of you guys went to, and that was super cool to see. And finally, in regards to sports, our girls golf sent 2 individuals to the NorCal tournament. Our football team, I don't know if this was mentioned at the last board meeting, can't remember when it happened, but they made it to the 2nd round of CCS, which was a big achievement for them, and it hadn't happened in a while. And sadly, they lost, but it was a really tough game, and so they had a great season. Our soccer team has been doing well, and they started off with 3 wins and 1 loss. And then our girls cross country team did well, and they tied for 5th the state meet, which was the best placing in history. And there was an individual on the team, Lauren Subrian, who placed 11th in the whole state at the meet. And so that was super exciting. And that is my update.
And Riley's not mentioning herself as part of that amazing team. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Question, comment? Okay.
All right. Right, so item 12.1 is our students of the month. And let's start with Anya Kesselring from Mountain View.
Mountain View High School is proud to recognize Anya Kesslering as our December 2021 Student of the Month. Anya is a current senior at Mountain View High School. She is on the varsity girls volleyball team, part of Ambassadors Link Crew, and a member of the Spartan Buddies program. Her favorite classes this year are Avid tutoring and trigonometry. As an Avid tutor, Anya is helping our Mountain View High School Avid ninth graders build a base for knowledge and stay up with their coursework during this first year out of quarantine and in high school. Outside of school, Anya enjoys volunteering at Animal Assisted Happiness, working as a crew member at Trader Joe's, and going to the beach with friends. Anya's interests include marine biology and environmentalism. She participated in a marine mammal scientist program through California Ocean Alliance. This program helped foster the growth of her passion for marine life and climate change because it is one of her aspirations to work to protect the ocean ecosystem. Anya wants to create awareness towards the negative effects of human activities on ocean life and climate change. Anya's love for marine mammals is something she wants to pursue in the future. She is interested in doing marine mammal research and rehabilitation work. Anya's teachers describe her as a caring, considerate, and selfless student who has always been involved and active. Congratulations, Anya.
Okay, stay up here, Anya. We may have a couple questions.
Okay.
Question? Yeah, Sanjay, go ahead.
So I'm glad to see you're interested in marine biology and environmentalism. I think that's really a good topic, especially these days. I just saw a documentary just this last weekend about how Earth has changed. And it's about this last year, the effects of basically life on Earth as humans had to stay home, and how all life of animals have improved everywhere. And it was a fantastic documentary. If you haven't seen it, so I highly recommend that. I think you'll like it very much. There's a lot of interesting research that they're able to do now. So I assume that's something you want to do with college. Is that something you want to pursue? Is that
Yes.
something you're going into? Okay, great. And so tell me about Avid. I'd like to know a little bit. So my daughter was an Avid. She loved being a tutor as well. So tell me what inspires you about Avid, being part of Avid?
I just love helping the students, like just seeing their faces when they can finally figure out a problem, and you like were a part of that process and helping them just get a smile on their face, and when they come back to you and be like, oh, like my teacher was so proud of me. That's just an amazing feeling, and I love to be a part of it. It's a great community.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Other question?
Can you tell me about the mammal, your marine scientist program that you're in?
Yeah, so
Yes.
it's called Marine Mammal Scientists in Training, and it's through California Ocean Alliance, which is like a nonprofit that is like out of Santa Cruz, and it's run by UC Santa Cruz professors. And the first year that I did it was in person, and it was just amazing. We went out with one of their teams and we tagged humpback whales in Monterey Bay. I assisted on a sea lion necropsy where we went inside the sea lion to figure out like how it was living, and we just did a lot of amazing things. Like off of that tagging of the humpback whale, like we monitored its feeding patterns and like the resting and how it sleeps and stuff like that. So it was an amazing, like really eye-opening program, and I love to just see all that data and get that hand-on experience.
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
Do you have family here with you?
I do. I have my mom and my dad with me.
Okay, bring them up for a picture.
Rain day. Rain day. Oh, that's what I guess. Yeah. Here you go. Thank you so much. After the jelly.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Riley.
Our December Student Month is Catherine Lai. Los Altos High School is proud to honor Catherine Lai as their December Student of the Month. It is a privilege to recognize all of her achievements serving both her community and school. Catherine has been a member of the Los Altos High School Key Club for 4 years and currently serves as the president. Key Club's mission is to bring people together while serving the community. They fundraise for charities with a focus on children's health, such as the Pediatric Trauma Program. On top of Key Club, Catherine is the vice president of the Planned Acts of Kindness Club. They host school activities to raise awareness for mental health and the importance of cultivating a kind culture on campus. To Catherine's surprise, the club placed first in the homecoming hallway decorating contest with the theme, The Three Little Pigs. On the more academic side of her involvements, Catherine is a member of the Advanced Scientific Investigation class, also known as ASI. She is working on a project aimed to improve the biovariability of the chemical compound curcumin, I don't know if I said that right, which is naturally occurring in turmeric. Curcumin has been proven to be beneficial for the body and even used as a cancer-fighting agent. She is really interested in brain science, which inspired her desire to research curcumin because of its potential to fight Alzheimer's. Catherine sees herself pursuing a form of brain science in the future since she feels as though the brain holds so much insight into who people really are. Additionally, Catherine Lai would consider Broken Box to be her second family. She joined the advanced acting class her sophomore year after hearing about the amazing community from her brother. Catherine quotes, "You could say I joined for the acting, but I stayed for the people." Theater is a place where she feels at home, and she expresses her gratitude for her peers and the community in which Broken Box has provided her with. Catherine is also an Avid tutor, working alongside both seniors and freshmen. Getting involved with Avid was a decision Catherine was so grateful she made, creating friendships and experience a community like no other. If you are ever in need of some caffeine, make sure to stop by Pete's Coffee downtown Los Altos because you might catch Catherine working behind the counter. Congratulations, Catherine Lai, for receiving December Student of the Month and for all of your amazing success and dedication to give back to your community and school. We can't wait to see all of the amazing accomplishments coming your way in the near future.
Congratulations, Catherine. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
You have questions for Catherine? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, come back and let somebody else go. Somebody start.
Good, I do. For your ASI class, this is your first year or second year?
This is my first year.
Okay, so how did you pick the subject? I mean, coming in as your first year, right? Sometimes some of the students are actually doing it for 2 years, right? And carrying on the project. So you're coming in as your first year. And so how did you select this?
Yeah, that's actually a really awesome question. My partner, who's also like my friend, and we were both like interested in the class, and we kind of like came together as a partnership because we realized like we both wanted to do something brain related. And I've always had like an interest in psychology, especially, and in understanding like how our brain explains our emotions, our behaviors, and things like that. And I knew I wanted to investigate something along those lines. And I think what tied me to Alzheimer's, or what made me kind of think, okay, let's see if we can find a way to research this, is that it's really like a devastating illness, and it affects so many people. Like it's a very common one too, and so kind of that combination maybe just think, okay, is there anything I could do just as a student, you know, like obviously there's only so much that you can do in a high school lab, but I wanted to see how much can we do as students to kind of deal with these types of problems, because a lot of people in the class are doing some awesome things with like a lot of illnesses and things that really affect a lot of people, like cancer and things like that. And so me and my partner both knew, okay, this is kind of something that we're both interested in, and we started researching and found that, you know, curcumin was actually a really interesting thing. What we kind of like
why we decided on curcumin specifically is because we found this funny like little tagline in one of the articles we read about how like India has like fewer Alzheimer's or like lower Alzheimer's rates because they eat turmeric so much. And we don't know whether that's research, scientifically proven, but it was just a funny thing to us. And as we got deeper and deeper, we found that like, the possibility of this really helping was pretty large. And so we wanted to keep pursuing it. But yeah, I think it kind of started with brain science and kind of evolved into, well, how can we make an impact with that?
Thank you. I think that the reports at the end of the year that we get to go to where we get to interact with you and ask questions is always really interesting. And I commend you for taking this subject on. I mean, hopefully it'll benefit me and everybody else here. So thank you. It's way above my head, by the way, so I appreciate
It's above
it.
my head too. Research.
So yeah, I have a follow-up question about interested in your work that you're doing at this investigation class. So I was curious, why is it important to improve the biovariability of curcumin, and how do you improve the biovariability?
So it's actually the bioavailability, like the kind of like the availability of a compound in the body, or like the ability of it to get to your brain or different areas where you might want it to go. And the reason that you want to improve that is because a lot of like a lot of drugs and just things in general get metabolized pretty quickly. And they get excreted from our body. They don't have the effects that they could have if they were to stay in our body, get to our brain, and flow through the bloodstream. And so curcumin, with our limited knowledge, has been able to have like those antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer effects, and kind of get rid of some of the telltale signs of Alzheimer's, like the plaques and the tangles. But the hard part about it is that because it's so limited, you only have like a pretty minuscule effect. And so if you were able to enhance that, you could really like kind of, I guess, maximize that effect on the body and have it be even more impactful. And so the way that you would go about doing that is to try and kind of bypass those metabolic pathways in a sense. Like the specific one that metabolizes curcumin is called glucuronidation, and it is responsible for like 99% of the metabolism. And so within like 1 hour or like 2 hours of eating turmeric, it's like completely gone from your body. And that doesn't leave us a lot of time for it to like positively impact you. And so we want to try to bypass that. And so that's what we're doing like with our project, and trying to figure out how can we kind of like manipulate curcumin so that it can be like, it can bypass that and get to your body, because it's a naturally occurring compound. So it's like not like it's the least likely to be like kind of dangerous for you or like toxic in higher amounts. And so like that's why we really want to enhance the amount that stays in your body for a longer period of time. Sorry if that was like
That was
a really
that was
poor
great.
explanation.
That was great.
Perfect answer.
Yeah, that's
Thank you
great.
very much. Congratulations.
Maybe you could teach the class. I have a question.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
And my question's on the other lighthearted side, and that is in your acting, what is the favorite part you've ever played?
Oh, have any of you seen It's a Wonderful Life? That was actually my first ever show, and I got to play Clarence. And I played Clarence very like childlike. And then I watched the movie and I was like, oh, this old man. But I think that was definitely my favorite role, just because I got to work alongside some people I really admired in that class. And I got to work side by side with them, and I was like, this is great. Like, what is happening right now? Because I was a sophomore. But it was just a really fun experience. And I think like being able to like joke around with them and talk backstage, and then also kind of like, I don't know, it was just like having that be my first experience really shaped my perception of the class. It was a very positive, uplifting space. Like people were always giving high fives and like good jobs backstage, and like we would whisper and stuff. But it was just like you constantly felt like you were at home, even if you were just in the back hallways, like talking with the other cast. So.
Thanks. Great question. Okay, I think you have family here because they've been kind of peeking their heads in the door. We should have invited them in sooner, but we'll meet you up front for a picture. Okay.
I don't want to run you over.
I know. Oh, your eyes. Okay. Okay, so we are ready for our superintendent's report, item 13.1.
All right, thank you very much, President Walter. To share a few things that have been going on over the last few months, we have had almost 1 month since our last board meeting, so we have quite a few things to show. You can see here some highlights on the cover page of kind of caught in the act, students doing wonderful things. So you can see here on the left, we have our soccer team, and on the right, I believe that was Broken Box. I'm not 100% certain. So to share with the board and the community a document that we've been looking at as a staff team, we've been looking at the best way to hone in on student success. And one of the things you're going to hear tonight from our school sites, you're going to hear about their work towards coherent plans and alignment between our different campuses. And this document is designed to do something similar to really create a framework and to see where our different plans and our district system-wide goals exist. So wanted to highlight this. We will definitely have more in-depth discussions about what this is, but the main point of this is that we have equity and our board goals as the foundation of all of our work. And then as you go further up, the ultimate goal will be student success. Another thing that we've been doing, as well as honing in on our academic programs and supporting our students, as you know, has been providing our community an avenue to test. And during last month, we had nearly 3,000 tests administered, and about 1,676, about exactly, people tested with 11 positive cases. So when we do have that one case, you can see the exponential amount of testing that needs to be done. And this is available on the website if you want to look at the more granular data. And to look at this month, what we're seeing is, as you can see, kind of a slight uptick. And given the amount of days that we've had so far, we do anticipate we may have, since this was posted yesterday, we may have a couple more cases, but we are continuing to test, and we're seeing a lot of people who've come back from Thanksgiving or who are getting ready to go on trips using our testing locations, which include right out here on the front porch, near the football field at Los Altos High School. And we have had testing at our adult education center as well. Going forward, I do want to announce that we are going to be starting our Family Partnership Council, our FPC, and our first meeting will be January 31st, 2022 at Alta Vista at 5 p.m. This is an effort led to gather representative information from our community, and we will have a full report on the work that we're doing with this in our board meeting in January. But I did want to share that we do have the representative positions, including PTSA and foundation and other representatives, teacher representatives, administrative representatives, and we do have an at-large position as well. We have student representatives as well. And so this will be the forum to discuss initiatives that we are looking at as a district and to explain more thoroughly different endeavors that we're taking. So I look forward to having our first inaugural meeting next month. And I do want to just share that special thanks to Michelle Bissonette, who will be helping coordinate and help lead these efforts. So there she is. I was looking at the chair. Oh, another thing that I've mentioned, we are continuing our brown bag sessions, and thanks to William Blair, who along with Susan Flatmo led our social emotional learning brown bag last week. We also, with Angela Price and her team of recruiters from around the nation, have already held the college community and admission process. So I like how they're on-demand viewing. If you want to go and see them, you can see them on demand. But some of those that are coming up, when we return our first week back, we will discuss ethnic studies, and you can see other topics include college and career exploration, college freshmen coming back, and alum giving their perspective on how the first year went for them. There will be a brown bag on special education, English learners, and then in May we will have a Mountain View Los Altos Climate Committee who will talk about different avenues and discussion about school climate. So I encourage you all to see it. We have a time change by popular demand. We moved it to 12:45, so staff and students may see it as well. But once again, it is on demand if anyone wants to go back. Wellness, as it was a topic, it is so timely this time of year. Here are some photos of the wellness efforts that our students have really taken the lead on. Here are some photos from Mountain View. And what, I'm not sure what is that a bunny?
It's an upside down bunny.
Upside down bunny. Is that a real bunny? Okay. Beautiful bunny. And you can see the fun and the activities and the positive things that are going on. And then also at Los Altos, they have had the Spirit Days, and Riley, I think you did a great job explaining all of the things that you're doing for wellness. Wellness kits were also distributed, so they had fun things within the bag that each student could look at, and it's a great way to balance out the stress of finals, so the timing could not be better. Great photo too. All right, and so here I mentioned the brown bag, and I was going to go through this rather quickly. The photographer has to hold her camera down low and angle it up to get the shot without the camera inside of the photo. And you can see it takes a lot of effort to multitask in the bottom right-hand corner. But really special thanks, because the importance of the topic, we had tips on how to take care of yourself during the holidays and different ways to make sure that you're really making sure you have reached that balance. So thank you to the team who put that on. And another wonderful activity that is occurring at Los Altos, both campuses have activities for their staff. And so this is a photo of, I think it was the first inaugural Saturday. They went out and they are taking hikes together to continue that wellness theme and to really share the importance of exercise in the wellness repertoire and animals in the wellness repertoire. Some other quick photos. We have had challenge team topics. We've had 2 meetings since our last board meeting, and this organization looks forward to hopefully being in person very soon. And thanks to Gay Kraus and our other community members who come together with timely topics. Their last presentation also has been focusing on wellness as well. And in that same venue on Thanksgiving Day, a wonderful community event that we hold every year. It's a great way to start off your eating day. We had our turkey trot, and you can see here the picture of the turkey in the upper left-hand corner was designed by a freestyle student. And then we had our wonderful announcers. We have alumni parents who are participating and helping coordinate. And we also have an alumni announcer and a group of runners that come every year that typically, I think along with our cross country, they lead the pack. And I think I saw some of our cross country teams there as well. And then our ASB was there in full force asking what we were thankful for. So I think someone said Mountain View High ASB. All right, so moving on, just a lovely image of a lovely person. And we have special thanks for Brenda Harris. Dr. Harris served us well in her tenure at the adult education. 16, more than 10. And so definitely those 16 years, and it didn't seem to change her a bit. Some of the things that we talked about that Brenda believed in and emulated included excellence in everything she did, enthusiasm in always being willing to try something new, and elegance. And during the pandemic, it was hard sometimes to be elegant, and she managed to do so. So kudos to you, Brenda. Those beautiful flowers. And so going forward, want to just recognize that you've heard a lot about our CSACE plan, but here's an example where we have Principal Satterwhite, and we have our new AP Fabian, who we will hear from also tonight, who really recognized our students for their success around the CSACE plan. And so a wonderful activity that's an offshoot of the work that we're doing to target and support students who may need that extra support. And moving forward as well, just a glimpse into when we do our class visits. This is an example in Jared Darby's class of his high school, of his architectural and design course. And he had asked them to design something within Chicago that would be a community center. And so the students came up with models and created all sorts of different plans for community centers within Chicago in some of their first efforts. So they did a wonderful job. And then kind of moving to Los Altos, you can see here, this is available, I believe, on the website at Los Altos High, and their art is really, it's stunning. And so you can see the art show, and here are two examples. And then just, oh, I see our COVID designee has been freed up. We have our COVID designee FAQs and they are available online, and we are updating them regularly. Just of note, I did mention, we have the testing this entire week, but during the break, we are taking a break. So we did want to inform the community that during those 2 weeks, if they do need to test, they will need to look towards local other venues, but we will be back up on the first day back. And then also of note, we had an update that went out the first week of December, and another a magazine that will have more detailed information, including Student of the Month and Julie Vo's announcement, and that will be out this week. And then we will be preparing for our next speaker series, the Addiction Inoculation, Raising Healthy Kids in a Culture of Dependence. And Jessica Leahy will be our speaker, and she will speak to the importance of relationships in combating addiction. And then just finally, just some things of note, and you may find these dates on our website as well. And as we move towards the break, and last but not least, the playoff that Riley mentioned, we had some fans in the stands, and here you can see a couple of offspring of some of our staff, future Eagles and current MVLA teams. So with that concludes my superintendent report. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Dr. Meyer before I go ahead? Okay.
Thank you. Tons going on. Yeah, great pictures. I love that I want to note that Jared Darby's, all of those models were made out of cardboard, which is absolutely awesome because it means that every single kid in class could participate. There was not a cost to building those models, and it was probably recycled cardboard, right? I'm thinking about my own garage right now. But anyway, I think it's so cool that he sets things up that way. Okay, yes. I know, we're gonna let you guys go. Have a wonderful break. Enjoy, good luck on the rest of the week.
Thank you.
And yeah, drive safe, it's pouring down rain. Okay. Sure, yeah. Yeah, get some sleep, exactly. Okay, so item 14.1 is an opportunity for our district employee groups to come and give us updates at the meetings, and we don't have anybody joining us tonight, but I do want to take the opportunity, and I would wager that the rest of the board joins me in just saying thank you for a great semester to everybody in the district for all the work at every level up and down the chain, all of our classified teachers, admins, therapists, the whole gang. Thank you. We know everybody needs a nice long rest, like our students need a nice long rest. And thanks for all you do. So, okay. So now would be the time for public comment on items not on the agenda. And I don't know if we've got anybody wishing to speak on this. Most of the faces out here are pretty familiar. Seeing none, I will move on to item 16, which is the consolidated motion. And I would take a motion to approve.
I move that we approve consolidated motions items 16.1 through 16.19.
It is 19. Yeah.
19.
Long way backwards. Okay. So I've got a motion and a second from Catherine and Debbie that we approve items 16.1 through 16.19. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And I just want to flag one thing, which is item 16.6, which I think is just so cool. We literally have an ELL case manager through CSA, through Community Services Agency, funded by the County Board of Supervisors. So not out of our pockets. I did not know that this was in the works. Thank you guys for pulling this off. Thank you for making it happen. And that was, anyway, that was just a very exciting item for me to be able to vote yes on. So, okay. All right, we're on, nothing was pulled, so item 17 is moot. And we are on to item 18, and simply because I have it written down this way, unless Dr. Meyer is planning otherwise, I was going to let Los Altos go first. Okay, did you want to?
And I will just open with saying that thanks to our school site teams who coordinated and worked together. And thanks to Terry Fott, who worked with our administrative team this evening. They will bring up information in their annual review that will focus on congruence and coherence between a number of required school plans, including their WASP plan, and share updates on their data. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for providing us the opportunity to have a conversation with the board. We always look forward to this time of year because we know that you guys trust us, but you also hear what we have to say. And so we have spent a significant amount of time looking at the data, but you have all had the data. So we decided we're going to tell you a story. Okay? And so our story is that there really are 5 of us, and the bottom is this is our WASP thing. So one of us is really not missing, but we all looked at that and we said one of us is missing, but that's not true. So the past 20 months have been interesting. We pride ourselves as a district, and most specifically at Los Altos High School, as really focusing on the academic excellence for all students. But we've had some interesting things going on. COVID came. March 13th will never, ever be the same for me. Before COVID came, we had construction going on. Before that, there were some mental health issues that we were working on. So when you combine the actual physical closure of school, online instruction, and I don't know if you guys remember, but on the 13th, I walked out of my office and I thought, oh, I'll be back in a week, right? And yeah, I wasn't. And I don't think I'd ever been on a Zoom meeting until the following Tuesday. And I went, oh, this is interesting. And I'm thinking about our staff and our students who had exactly the same experience that I did. and what they actually were able to accomplish. And so I think as we went through this, all of the items that we talked about heavily impacted our community, not just our school, but our community. But when you look at the data, when you look at the kids coming back, when you look at the staff, what you see is a bunch of resilience. And so tonight we are here to really just take a few minutes to reflect on where we've been, what we learned, and where we'd like to be. So I'm going to turn over to my team because these guys are very bright, and I'm just going to push the button and let them go.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I was lucky enough to get to talk to you a little bit about profile and points of pride. So this is a really fun, in part focusing on a few things, but letting you know it's coming in a few slides. So as far as Los Altos, what we've seen over the last couple of years, a slight decrease in total number of students in the last 2 years, increase in our Latino population, and also an increase in the complexity of our special ed programs and population, as well as the types of IEP supports we have. Some of the things we want to really look at here. Oh, by the way, you're looking at pictures from some of the things that we'll be talking about, but post-pandemic, how we've come back and come back in person in really exciting ways. So one is a visual of our Alice in Wonderland show, and another is our CSIS celebration that I'll talk about in just a moment. One point of pride, there's so many, but what we really want to point out, this idea of centering on equity and inclusion. This isn't new to us, but how we're doing it and to the extent we're doing it and working together to do so has been really exciting, especially as we've come back post-pandemic. Some of the examples, the success for our At Promise students. So what you see here are CSIS student recognition with our cafeteria full with families, as well as I think we had over 15 teachers in the evening having celebration and awards together. And what that was related to is that we actually have multiple sections of our with a really fabulous teacher, Miss Battle. She's very committed to her students. We've already seen growth in their grades, and we've celebrated with families and teachers. And it seems like it's just going to snowball in a really positive way and a good community building way. We've also seen really great parent involvement through PK. I believe we had 27 families involved already this year, which is exciting just to see how the support of academic and family go hand in hand. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that. Addressing mental health for all. That's a real point of pride, I think, at all of our schools in our district. We've been talking about wellness. Kristen will point out a bit more for us about the mental health for all and how supported through all the changes, and we can call it chaos or we can call it flexible innovation for staff and student wellness. In a big end, we'll be talking about improving ed tech, technology, and facilities as it relates to our WASC. But these points, they really tie into our WASC focus and work and things we're doing currently and building through our many, some might say, annual goals. So post-pandemic, what I really want to highlight in the points of pride as we're closing out on this slide, that we're learning from the challenges of the pandemic, but also capitalizing on the opportunities, the time for change. The idea that we would be able to really reimagine traditions and activities and the ways we all interrelate has been really exciting. To have Los Altos High School campus itself and the community around the academics. We might say in our classrooms, we've fostered really this spirit of inclusiveness and equity, but to see it go into our campus and the activities and all we do to be even more inclusive, to be a place where Los Altos families and students really call it home has been really exciting. Post-pandemic, I thought a bit it might be like a honeymoon phase. You know, it's always exciting the first week back. I thought maybe we'll carry through into mid-September like this. But I'm telling you, over 20 times a day, I'm still getting hellos in the halls. We had over 130 clubs chartered in the first 2 months as it was. Students are craving and thriving in the spirit of activity that's school related, school spirit related, and club and different ways outside and within the academics to connect with staff and their peers. So I think one of our real points of pride is that being back on campus, being able to see how we reimagine traditions, plan new activities, get really creative in revamping old activities. And I think Riley touched on this, but outstanding athletics and just the miracle that has been having 3 seasons in 2 months last year and continue with it this year has been really exciting. So I think with that, I'll pass it on.
Good evening. I get to speak on data. And I was really excited to see the charts. This is 2 points of the data that we'll be talking about will be 2 points of access for our students. And when we talk about equity, when we talk about inclusion, I think this is where we really shine and we're able to provide an opportunity to students. As a former counselor, I always tell my students, I want you to have a problem at the end of your 4 years. And the problem I want you to have is that you have too many opportunities available to you, and it's going to be hard for you to choose. When we look at our data, when we look at our subgroups, we're seeing that our students are achieving at a high level. My colleagues were a little worried for our Latino students and saying, oh my goodness, you know, we're working and we're flexing. And I was like, you guys are crazy. When we look at the data compared to our state data, our Latino students are achieving at a 30%, maybe 35 on a good year. We're at a 50%. Does that mean that we still have room for growth? Absolutely. But our students are having the opportunity to access and the ability to engage in an education. We want them to be able to go on forward and say, we did this at Los Altos. There was an expectation of me to be successful. There's an expectation of me to have equal opportunities as with the rest of my peers. And again, as we leave the bubble of the Bay Area, sometimes that becomes very familiar to our students. Other times it's like, wow, what an incredible place, what a special place that I was a part of. So when we look at our A through G data, again, this is the data that allows our students to pursue a post-secondary education immediately out of high school. We're doing an amazing job. When we look at our Algebra 2 data, again, Algebra 2 data is incredibly important. Why? Because this is oftentimes the biggest challenge for our subgroups when accessing post-secondary education. Normally, it's the one class that we see where students struggle the most. And through the work that my colleagues have been able to do, and again, that reimagination of maintaining rigor, holding our students accountable, but also allowing us to rethink how we're engaging our students with Algebra 2, has allowed our students to demonstrate capacity in one of the toughest subjects. I oftentimes joke with my students and say, the reason why I'm not an engineer was because of Algebra 2. Had it not been for Ms. Gomez, who got me through all those lunchtime hours, I would have not graduated, had not been eligible. Again, our teachers, our students are committed to their education, their success, and we're seeing it shine by this data. So I think it's a really moment of pride, stepping back, being the new guy in and saying, whoa, guys, we are achieving at a high level, and it's a moment for us to celebrate. Next, I'll pass it on to Mr. Rosenberg.
Good evening, everybody. I want to highlight a word that Nellie said earlier, and it's part of the whole purpose here, which is giving coherence to what often seems like a chaotic world. Whenever I attend a board meeting, I'm reminded of how hard it is to remember that there are clear, single, important focuses for a public school, but there's a million different ways in which we go about making sure we're achieving that goal. And we all agree that as an academic institution, classroom learning is the center of what we're trying to do here, which isn't to diminish the importance of the other goals, but it really is what we're all about. And it's important then to remember that for us, for a long time in the district, the WASC action plan has given us that coherence, that plan that looks forward 6 years, which is kind of a long time in a public school, and developing specific action items that we're going to work toward. And I think it's been an outstanding element of our district that we've maintained that focus and used the WASC action plan to give us that sense of continuous purpose, continuous growth, and a sense of coherence. And so, as you know, I'm sure you're quite familiar, so this is just review for you guys. Data, facilities, and technology are the foundation of what we need as a public school, what we discussed in the last WASC action plan. And there are a number of goals related to that, but for our classroom teachers and the ongoing work, they are at the center so much as 21st century learning, equity, and wellness. I do want to highlight, though, that improvements made in some ways, particularly during the pandemic, but obviously long planned ahead of time in terms of facilities, have really made a dramatic difference over the last year at Los Altos High School. We were so pleased to see the results of surveys of students and staff that the Wi-Fi works. I don't know if you knew, but in my role as facilities and technology at Los Altos High School, complaints about the Wi-Fi, it was kind of a joke. Not that we were unusual as a public school a couple of years ago, but kids, and they're pretty cynical customers on this one, almost universally say it works. So that's a lot of credit to the funding that the board has provided and the IT team that's done a lot of work to improve things. It's been made a huge difference. Plus the new facilities are just amazing. New ones coming on board. This really does make a difference to the learning of our students. Our focus specifically this year that I want to highlight is in terms of professional learning and how teachers can think about assessment in ways that makes it have more equitable outcomes and tie 21st century learning to the experience that students have in the classroom and what they demonstrate in the assessments that teachers give them. And so what teachers have been doing in departments and course teams is examining their past practices and discussing ways in which to make sure that the outcomes of those assessments are more equitable. And for many of us, it seems, well, of course my test is fair. Of course my test is equitable. But the truth of the matter is when you look at the results, they're not equitable. There's complex reasons why that might be the case, but our willingness to own that part of the educational problem is key to us improving those equitable outcomes. And so there's been some significant growth here, really important conversations about what our classroom experience is like, and particularly the assessments that we give students to make sure that every student really can achieve at a high level and in a way that doesn't continue to produce the inequities that we see routinely. That's really, as so many people have said, that one outcome of the pandemic is putting in our face the inequities that our society has endemic all over the place, and in education in particular, a sense of responsibilities to address them with even more passion than we have in the past. I think our district has been a leader in addressing issues of equity ever since I've been here, shortly after the district desegregated Mountain View High School. And in the many years since, it's always been a priority. But I think the pandemic, like many people have said, really has made a difference in the passion that we have behind this focus. And I think an example that Fabian mentioned was the result in Algebra 2. And this was quite intentional. I said this, and I think I can still say this in this public forum. I don't think it's the case that our students learned Algebra 2 better in distance learning during the pandemic. But when teachers looked at what was going on in their classrooms, the experiences of their students, the inequitable outcomes they were seeing, they made changes in their assessments, the grading policies and practices, the opportunities to make up work. And that's why the achievement rate, particularly of Latino students, went up in Algebra 2 during the pandemic. And I think this is an example of teachers working together to address exactly these issues and making a real difference. So we're going to use that as an example for all of our colleagues, because we're going to dig more into the data to really understand what that simple sounding question, but I'm sure it's more complex than that, to talk about how we can make similar kinds of changes in all of our classes. So that's my piece on the WASC action plan and coherence.
I was timing you. We always have a bet of who's going to speak the longest from our team, so I think Galen's the winner. Thank you again for listening to us. You know, as we transition back from the pandemic, I mean, we're still in it, but in terms of kids coming back from at-home learning, you know, we sit as a team. So if we're telling a story, we have admin team meetings twice a week where we sit together and really talk about what's going on our campus. How can we support our students, number one, and also our staff? What are we noticing? What do we need to do about it? You know, how do we make changes so that our community is a better place? Three of the areas that we noticed where things are kind of standing out to us is wellness, discipline, and transitions. In terms of wellness, you know, I think bottom line is people need to feel connected. You know, coming back from that, the relationship aspect is huge. Being under construction, many people are in different places than they were before, including all of us. People are disjointed, departments aren't together as much anymore. And so there's this really deep desire to feel connected. And I think Nellie put up a really nice picture of our staff going on a hike. And, you know, the staff is obviously planning things for students, but also needs things for each other. And so we're going to have a paint night. We're going to be planning not the wine and paint night, but just the paint night on campus where people are going to be able to come and paint together and just, you know, kind of enjoy the spirit together. But what we're noticing with our students, same thing, they're really happy to be together again. Like Suzanne mentioned, the activities on our campus are so important. You know, I thought I never saw so many kids so excited to go to a dance before. It was kind of just the norm before, but this time they're really, really excited. So that was great. With that all being said, though, mental health and wellness is still a concern. Kids are coming back with greater needs. Intensity was higher, acuity was higher. And so we're noticing that that is an area that we continue to focus on and put our efforts towards. In terms of discipline, wow, some of these kids haven't been in real school in a while. And so coming from a middle school or junior high with a smaller amount of kids to a big campus, trying to understand how to all fit and work together has been challenging at times. You know, they're struggling with some of their social skills. And so I know that teachers are helping them with that. They're also struggling with following rules for some of them. And so, you know, instead of being negative and worried about discipline and, you know, we still have amazing schools, we look at it as another opportunity to look at our restorative practices and what we can do differently to support our students that are challenging with this situation. So that's been a nice thing for us to look at as well. And then as stated before, transitions. Community is important to build in the classroom, and we continue to encourage our teachers to do that in the classroom. But again, outside the classroom, it needs to happen as well. So all the activities we've been talking about, along with what I've noticed, one of the big things is we have so many kids staying on campus for lunch. Before, kids would just leave and we'd be kind of, again, segregated in that way, but kids are staying on. The free lunch thing has been amazing for our students. And so I think it's building more and more community. I think back to what Catherine said earlier, you know, she joined Broken Box to be part of drama, but what it was really about was about being with others and people and connecting with people. And so I think that that's really what this transition is finding ways for students to connect.
So moving forward, we have some hopes and dreams, and a big part of what we're trying to do is to figure out, hearing all the stuff that we hear through our WASP process. We have talked to students, we have talked to parents, we've talked to our community, and we've actually gained a lot of insight with that. And so as we started to go through and look at the different things that we would like to accomplish and the ways that we want to reimagine the Southwest High School and hopefully the district to a certain extent, we came up with 4 areas that we really wanted to touch base on. Elon's going to talk about that.
So these are tough questions that have been raised by the pandemic and the recent experience of our entire country about what equity really means. And I talked briefly about assessments in particular. What seems like an objective measure of achievement sometimes very much isn't. Or the ways in which students experience that assessment or prepared for it don't really equitably give them the same kinds of opportunities. There's conversations about some tough issues, like whether or not AP classes and the unlimited access that we have currently provided really is in best interest of all students. It raises significant equity questions, and it also raises significant wellness questions. Questions about honors classes for 9th graders. Does that really meet the needs of our students in terms of the academic preparation they need for success at higher levels? Or does it perpetuate segregation and a sense of inequality amongst our students? And does it really provide the same kind of equitable learning experience that we want for all of our students? And the connections with our partner districts, which have always been a significant challenge, are obviously critical for the progress we want to make, particularly with our CSIS population. These are tough questions, and they require us to look at data that we don't always look at and ask questions about it that we don't consistently do. And I know that all of our community has a very significant interest in all these questions, because if we're going to make systemic changes that really make a difference with these objectives, we need to have a larger conversation about what our objectives really are. One of our WASP action plan goals that seems really important but doesn't get that much conversation was one about culture. Like, what are we really about as a school district? And honestly speaking, for myself, as someone who's been here for a long time, I have always taken great pride in the academic excellence of this district. But I do think in some ways, unintentionally and intentionally in other ways, that pursuit of excellence has created a culture that is in some ways unhealthy and inequitable, because it creates a sense of hierarchy and hyper-competitiveness that really is not in the best interest of all of our students, not even of the students who all come out on the top of that achievement competition. how to get to a place where all students feel supported and successful and healthy, and also are able to reach high levels of academic achievement is a transition I think that we're all very interested in having a conversation about and making real changes. And so these are just a few of the issues that we think are central to that conversation and the kind of data related to that that we think we need to look at soon and have some real conversations, certainly at the board level, but with our larger community as well.
I think to tag on a little bit with that is just noticing that our students are needing more and more supports in terms of wellness in order to continue to succeed at such a high rate. Yeah, I've been very lucky, blessed to work with William Blair, and he's done a lot for wellness in our district and for our clinical team. Even though my role has changed, I still work very closely with our clinical team. And I think we're just really looking at the infrastructure and what changes need to be made so that we can support our students with the capacity that we have to serve them. We're actually meeting tomorrow. There's a meeting planned with our clinical team to kind of reflect on where we've been with the pandemic, the services that we've offered, and moving forward, what does that look like and what do our students need? So we're continuing to have conversations about that. And again, I thank William Blair for really leading us in that charge and working with our sites. I want to also thank our clinical team because they've done a great job supporting our students. This has been a tough time and they sit with a lot of stuff, and they've been a wonderful support to our students so that they could achieve academically like we want them to.
Finally, we also want to talk about CTE, career technical education. And again, this is about providing access to students and having them feel successful. Some of our students have found success in the robotics class, managing and touching and creating stuff. And that's, I think that's a great opportunity for our students. Other times students enjoy these classes. And again, there's more to offer. Just like we have our AP offerings, we have multi-years in our CET pathways that can provide access to students, change the mindset as to what success ultimately means and how they can engage with that conversation. So there's wonderful opportunities. We have great partnerships that we're starting to continue to develop through our community college, our adult school, and just, again, providing success for those students and having them smile and walk away with having a successful day at school. I think it's an incredible opportunity for all of our students.
And lastly, is highlighted on this slide related to data. Moving forward, we see giving greatest access to help inform teachers, help them understand how to use data and have easy access and getting at the answers that they're looking for. Even providing support with them, either training or whatever that might look like, have efficient access to research their questions. That's something that we see really, when we say hopes and dreams, these are all things that are in the works. These are the conversations that are on people's minds at lunch, at, the side, if we had water coolers, these would be the conversations, right? At the fountains. So there's so many exciting things going on. I almost went on the side path of just, we recently in the Capstone Pathways conversation, it's probably almost speaking, as recently as one of our leadership meetings, it was so exciting to see the whole, APs are wonderful and they're beautiful and they are a finale, experience in showcasing your learning. But it was our teachers bringing forth in a leadership conversation, speaking about our third year course or our most advanced end capstone, whichever phrase you want to use it, that it would be validated amongst staff and students as that equal of perhaps an AP exam, right? You showcased what you knew and you performed, and just, it's so exciting to see these students in their intellectual flow, right? Losing time because they're so excited about the projects they have, the things they're doing inside their classrooms and outside. So I want to loop back, since I said data, I want to loop back to one of our points of pride with a little piece of data. And if we go to the next slide, it's a good one. We talked about Wellness and Gratitude Week, but I always love to provide more pictures. This is just a few days of what Wellness and Gratitude Week looked like. I believe this is the year 8 that we've formally had a Wellness Week, and it's 2 leadership classes that work with it. But we also had a recent Wasp student feedback survey. And what was so exciting about it was, now it might have been because we had a rally right before we had them fill this out, but 87% of our students said they agreed or strongly agreed that Los Altos High School supports school spirit, belonging, and sense of community. And that just really spoke to us about what our efforts are about, academic within and across, and interconnectedness and community. And I just want to say, through all of this, I know you've had to sit through the brunt of many conversations, and you're so good at hearing all perspectives from our community, our parents, our staff, and students. But thank you truly for bringing us back together to even be here for this conversation. And you did so in such an organized and supportive and positive way, so that we can show you pictures like this, right? So thank you.
I think just in closing, this has been an interesting 20 months. The 4 people who just spoke to you did an amazing job of keeping Los Altos High School up and running and having experiences for students that we thought we were going to lose for forever. So when we talk about reimagining, these guys put their shoulders to the wheel and made things happen for kids and for our community that were pretty amazing. We also really wanted to thank Terry and Ed Services for collecting the data. I don't know if you guys know, you've seen the binders. It's a pretty intensive group, but Terry also came to our admin meetings and talked to us about this and kind of gave us some ideas, and that was helpful. The other thing is the district team. I don't know, again, how many of you recognize the hours that these guys put in, not just with you, but with us. They come, they ask, they help. I mean, I don't know how many times I call Mike, Terry, Layla, and Nellie and say, help, please. But since March 13th, 2019, it's been a real roller coaster. And for somebody who's done this job for a long time, it was like learning all over again. The teachers are all coming back saying, this feels like I'm a first-year teacher. It felt like being a first-year administrator. I tell you, it was really tough. And finally, we want to thank you. As Suzanne said, your leadership throughout the whole pandemic, while it was a rocky road sometimes, was very helpful to us when we were in the trenches. You gave us the kinds of supports that we needed, and we appreciate that. So thank you, and thank you for letting us share our story with you.
Thank you. No, we're gonna do questions right now.
Okay.
Hold on, Mike, a sec. If that's okay with everybody, just because we've got you, right? Are there questions or comments on the Los Altos presentation? Sure, go ahead.
Want me to start? Thank you again. Yeah, wonderful presentation. Appreciate it very much. And thank you for including all the data that we're able to kind of go over the weekend. So I thank you for, I don't know who, if all of you were involved in answering the questions that I sent. So I appreciate that very much. Questions. Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, I mean, the numbers, when I looked through it, I have to put them in a spreadsheet to kind of look at it in a way that I'd like to see it. And yeah, I mean, the Algebra 2 numbers you were mentioning, absolutely phenomenal numbers, both because I actually desegregate the data between all Latinx students and just the regular ed Latin students. I like to see that difference. Absolutely amazing, amazing results, and congratulations. It's phenomenal. I don't know what you did. I'd like to know all the secrets. I know you mentioned a few of those, but that's phenomenal. That stuff. And similar on the graduation rate, also just phenomenal. So really, I mean, just I can't congratulate you enough. This is absolutely amazing. I think you made a,
yeah.
I mean, the difference you made for these students is just, they're gonna have a new life with what you've done. So I really.
I'm going to jump in real quick. Sanjay and I were talking about this before the meeting started, and just every single batch of kids across 90% on a grad rate. I mean, that's whatever you're doing, it's wonderful.
We're gonna relay that message to Ms. Pearl also.
Yeah. And I shouldn't say whatever you're doing. We can see what we're doing, what you're doing. We can see what we're doing, what you are doing, and grateful.
You change these kids' lives. You really have. I'm really thankful for that. So one of the follow-up questions I did. So one of the data I thought was interesting, and and I don't know whether this is the right group to answer a question on, but this is the participation you're mentioning about. And so I was curious about when the one data that was showing with the extracurricular activity. So and I read your responses that there's a lot of reasons it could be. Right, well, transportation was one of them. That they may not be. Cost was another issue. Work, childcare, all the other reasons why there's some disparity, and it's true with both schools. Right, the data is pretty much the same for both schools. I was curious about in terms of like for musical instruments, do we, so we supply all instruments, right? There's no barrier for any of that, is there for any
That wouldn't be a
student?
barrier to student participation.
That wouldn't be,
And
okay.
even beyond that, where there are extra requested donation, whenever that can't be met, there's a couple different levels, whether it be through music boosters, for example, or ASB, whatever it is, that would be a barrier to student participating. And I don't even know at this point if students would think about that as a level of whether or not to participate. They would, that might not even occur to them to be it would be like getting a textbook, right? It would be provided to
Something we
them.
provide for them, everything. And that's true with sports as well. Pretty much like a tennis
Yes.
racket, I assume, if they can't afford it.
Our coaches are exceptional. I mean, Michelle knows in what she does to work with coaches, that it can sometimes feel like a revolving door of training. It is what it is, right? In the athletic.
Thanks. Sorry, just for the folks
Sorry about
on
that.
you. No, for the folks on YouTube listening, we can hear you just fine,
Sure.
and all of you actually, but for the folks
With our extracurriculars, so music, not an extracurricular part of the class, so just as a textbook, there's a couple different levels of how students would be provided instrument or other things related to the transportation and waivers if needed. With sports, although they're extracurriculars and not part of the mandatory academics, we very much consider it part of, a senior wanting to go to prom or have a yearbook, or, someone wanting to play in sports. There's a couple different things that our finance office and Gina Brownson assist us with in a very seamless way. If they need transportation waiver, if they need an ASB, financial scholarship so that they can attend games. So not just participate in as an athlete buying the ASB card, but also attend games free of charge. That's something that we have scholarship that we fundraise. And then there are sports that have additional kind of spirit packs that might be for materials not covered by athletic boosters, or that they're expendables. They use them and we don't want them back. If there's ever financial need there, Michelle Noeth has really worked with this changing crew of wonderful coaches to create this, avenues for them to either fundraise for that need or to provide the assistance as needed above and beyond what you might assume. So, yeah.
Do you see that, is there a barrier where some of these sports, and I find it even my own kids at the high school, even at the high school level, if the child didn't play when they were in their preschool young ages, it's hard to get in, right? I mean, basketball, for
Sure.
example, right? I mean, is that a barrier for some of these kids as well? Basically, that they're just not strong enough.
Sure, that's a great question. And I think what's interesting, even a few years back where you saw us with girls water polo in CCS, our goalie, is that what we call in water polo? I did dance, excuse me. Our water polo goalie had never even played until her freshman year. And we see lots of students interested in sports, but also for the PE credit options there too. That really ups the number. But I think one exciting thing we're seeing right now that we've just been talking about an admin team is students are joining clubs, students are joining sports for the community factor of it. And I think your question is really relevant because there might be a first year in a sport and feeling included and finding a space. So while there might be tryouts for certain sports each season, there tends to always be one that if you want to come out, you can come out. Wrestling is our great example right now. I mean, they are in there. We've built from 3 superstars to 30 and coming to practices and having a great time. I think cheer is another example of incredible growth post-pandemic and no prior experience.
Other questions or comments? No, I submitted a bunch. And I submitted a bunch ahead, and you hit my graduation comment. Galen, your Wi-Fi comment made me laugh. Sanjay and I were in we did Civics Day at Mountain View a couple of years ago, and this kiddo, we were talking about bell schedule changes and stuff, right? And so this rather frustrated kiddo had submitted a card complaining about various things about the bell schedule, but the final comment was, and geez, fix the Wi-Fi. So, and we have been working on it, and we're working on it, and are working on it. And anyway, I'm glad. Thank you. So, okay. One card. It was, I still have first cake. I still have the card. It was so funny. I kept it. Well, that's COVID related, but yeah.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you for having us here at your board meeting tonight. The agenda for our presentation is student, school, community profile data, ongoing school implementation and monitoring of plans, CSACE, highlights, challenges, and support needed. MVH serves a diverse student body of 2,319 students. Our student body is 41% Caucasian, 30% Asian, 23% Latino, 2% African American, and 4% other. The school earned the distinction of California Distinguished High School in 1994 and 2003. In 2007 and 2013, Mountain View High School received a full 6-year accreditation from the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. And Newsweek ranks Mountain View High School amongst the top 1% of high schools in the nation. We have a total of 31 newer teachers this year. 18 of those teachers are in year 1, and 13 of those teachers are in year 2. Our administrative staff is fairly new to MVLA. Daniela Quinones is the most veteran of our staff. She's going on her 3rd year. Myself, Heather, and John are all going on our 2nd year. And Marty McGurk is new to our team this school year. Marty may be new to our team, but she has the most historical knowledge about MVHS amongst our team. Although we are new to MVLA, we have a combined total of over 50 years of administrative experience on our team. So we may be young, but we are mighty. Our A through G completion has increased over the last 4 years. In 2017-2018 school year, we had a completion rate of 74%. In the 220-221 school year, we had a completion rate of 84%. Our GPA has also increased over the past 4 years. Students with a GPA of 3.0 or above have increased from 71% to 78%. We also offer open access to 37 honors and advanced placement courses across the curriculum. We are looking at and are actually very close to being able to open approximately 6 different pathways for our CCTE pathways for our students. And as you know, we offer dual enrollment for our students with our middle college, freestyle, independent study, and college now programs. Veteran?
So about our student and staff demographics, one important thing to note is that this year's student population of 2,319 students is actually the largest in school history. And it's an increase of about 62 students and an increase in enrollment of about 62 students from last year. We've seen some growth in some programs and a decline in enrollment in other programs. The one that is growing rapidly is our English learner program. In comparison to last year, we've had an increase of enrollment of 38 students. And as of today, there's 207 English learners on campus, with more scheduled to enroll after January 3rd. Our Avid program and our special education program have seen a decline in enrollment. With Avid, a small decline, about 11 students, but there are 159 Avid students, which we will talk about that program as a point of pride of Mountain View High School. And for our special education program, we did see a decline of 29 students. So we're at about 267 in total. With the increase in enrollment, there's been an increase in staff. So we've welcomed an additional 12 certificated staff members on campus. We're at 143 total. And classified staff has seen an increase of 2.
All right, so I know y'all know this like the back of your hand and you can read, so I'm not going to read it to you. But I think for me, having been here for so long, for me, our vision, our mission, our learner outcomes, those are not just things you see on a screen or things you read on paper, but they're really the values that MVHS faculty, staff, students, parents, and community are living each and every day. And you guys see this everywhere. You see it in our CSACE process and our focus on equity and access. You see it in our focus of community building and inclusivity, especially returning to campus after the pandemic. helping students and staff alike feel welcomed and valued and seen. You see it in our rich and diverse academic offerings, ranging from AP and honors to college prep, to electives, to CTE, to dual enrollment. You are very fortunate to see it, as are we, in our robust, preventative, and responsive mental health services that have arguably never been more important for us than they are right now. You can see it in our wide range of physical education offerings, as well as our extraordinary athletics programs. And then you see it on the daily on our campus, in student leaderships, in clubs, in organizations, in the arts, in technology, and more. And so, while yes, and we will talk about the opportunities for growth and improvement, of course, those are there, and we can always do better, and that's what we're striving for. But I think I feel really proud standing here that we are not just saying these things, but we are walking the walk and talking the talk every single day. And so, same thing, you know our goals as intimately as I do, so I won't read them to you. But a few highlights for some of the things that we've really been working toward in this domain. So one of our key foci, to use one of my husband's favorite math terms, is communication systems. So that's long been a struggle, and the bigger we get, the more challenging that is. And that's looking at, so huge props to Michelle Bissonette for all her work getting us reorganized with a fabulous new website coming soon. We're excited for streamlining and clarity and organization and access. Looking at Mike's memos and communication to our parents and families so that they are well aware of what's going on campus, not just the facts, but some of the highlights and the magic that goes on every single day that if you're not on campus, you might not see. You know, the Friday bulletin, which is keeping staff connected and aware of some of the highlights, and then as well as regular staff meetings that someday soon will be in person again. Narrowing the opportunity and expectation gap for our critical learners remains a huge focus. Heather's going to talk to you in a little bit about our CSATES work and the extraordinary progress we've made there. We're also particularly proud in response to the LPO letter, some of our efforts with parent outreach, and those things have happened within LPO. They've happened, we just had our PK graduation last week, which is super exciting. And then all of our work, and huge thanks to Daniela and recognition with ELAC. And then other areas. So this is my jam, staff and student wellness. So we've really, like Los Altos shared, we've really taken a hard and focused look on community building as we, to use one of my favorite and maybe Dr. Meyer's favorite metaphors, we're a space shuttle re-entering the atmosphere after a long time away in space. So really, our teachers and staff have done extraordinary things to create inclusive and welcoming spaces within their classroom as students re-enter the atmosphere. And then super fun things that you see ranging from Spartan Paws and the awesome little bunnies and goats to the amazing SEL and mental health services. And again, huge thanks to William for his leadership in our district on that. It is magic and we're so grateful. And then staff teams. So really looking at ways we informally build connections, but also looking at ways our staff teams, and that's our leadership team, department teams, and course teams have opportunities, resources, and most importantly, time to do the important behind the scenes work to provide the level of curriculum and instruction that MVLA has come to expect rather. And then finally, everywhere you go, data drives our decisions, ranging from goals that our departments are working on related to the STAR Renaissance reading data that was assessment that was given earlier this year, to our responses to a survey that was given by our Spartan Pause group about students reentry to campus, their experiences with connections and mental health. So again, these are not just things on paper. These are the things that drive our work every single day.
So now to speak to some points of pride in our work. One that I mentioned is our Avid program. So our Avid program is a huge point of pride. It serves about 7% of our student population, and about 90% of students enrolled in Avid are Latinx. One of the things that works so well in Avid is the robust supports that it offers our at Promise students. And so for that reason, we're really proud of Avid. They also have a very low referral rate to special education because of their intense supports. So kudos to Avid. Another point of pride that Los Altos also talked about was A through G, gateway to college career opportunities. 50% of our Latinx students are A through G eligible, which is a huge accomplishment that we're very proud of. That is about 15 to 20% higher than other neighboring districts or even districts across our state. We also will dive into the data with Mr. Robel next, but you will see an increase in A through G achievement in all of our subgroups. And last but not least, as we gave a shout out to Mr. Blair and the incredible support that he's given our wellness programs, but we're incredibly proud of the robust supports along the lines of mental health and wellness that we're able to provide our students, especially as we're re-entering the atmosphere and moving on to the next phase.
Daniela, I think you get to brag a little more than that. It's 58% according to the chart here.
Oh, okay.
All right, good evening. I have data, the fun topic of data. And as our sister school shared with you, I'm going to speak to A through G as well as Algebra 2 specifically, because as we know, those two are huge indicators of success, right? And so as you see across the board, as far as the class of 2021, and on the far right side, achievement and improvement, right? And I want to remind you, this is a class of 21. This is pandemic. This is a time of what are we doing and how do we do this? And how do we think outside the box? And how do we connect our students to the internet? How do we connect hotspots and laptops? And emails are off the chain all night long. Our teachers up to the odd hours of night, right? And so truly this is remarkable. And I want to highlight, I have ethnic breakdowns on the top row, and on the bottom row are special populations. Specifically, I want to highlight the social economic disadvantaged. It's those students that are on our heart that we're trying to connect, right? Trying to support, trying to think ways to find success, and there is success. That's something to speak to. And it speaks volumes to the work our staff did. It speaks volumes to the work our administrators behind me did, trying to drive out to houses, find hotspots to connect, right? It speaks volumes to our staff that showed up every Wednesday to supply supplies to students. If it's notebooks, if it's science materials and labs that were happening at home, if it was art supplies, there's so much behind the scenes that you don't see here that yes, this is success, and yes, this we need to speak to, but who are the humans behind that? And it's those humans that care so much for students and love what we do and why we do. Oh, if I could change the slide, I changed the slide. As far as meeting A through G, as we said, this is breaking down that Latinx subgroup specifically, because if we dive into that, as we said, 58%, right? We want to dive into see why and see just where our Latino students are successful. Again, I'm drawing your attention to the class of 21 this last spring, this pandemic year. What I want to draw your attention to is that red chart, that bar chart of reclassified English proficient students. We know that our RFEP students succeed. We know it, and here is another piece of evidence to speak to that. We strive every year, and we just had a reclassification ceremony last week. Just kudos to that. But here again, from 38%, just meeting A through G in the class of 20, we are just back up to 60% and really just continuing to thrive. And then the other one I want to highlight, as I already did, that socioeconomic disadvantage from 22% in the class of 20 to 45% of meeting A through G requirements, which, as you know, is able to step off into a CSU or UC school, and we stand behind that. Student achievement completing Algebra 2. I'm a former math teacher, and when we talk about Algebra 2, we talk about prime factorization, we talk about synthetic division, we talk about these abstract concepts, right? We talk about exponential charts and graphs and growth, and it's a topic that is not easy to learn. Yet we're continuing to do so, right? As we see in class of 21, all our subgroups are improving, and all our special populations here at the bottom of the screen, English learners, resource teachers, SPED, 504, Avid, and social economic disadvantage all experience growth. And so we need to think about why. And I think we already heard it from our sister school, our friends, that said our teachers are thinking outside the box, right? We're starting to assess in alternative ways. We're starting to think, okay, we need to do something different because we were forced to do something different. And now we're continuing on that. And as Galen shared, we're going to begin and we're going to continue to just capitalize on that. How do we change? How do we adjust? Right? Because assessing can come in many facets, right?
If I could just ask one question on this slide specifically. So yeah, I mean, the data was interesting. I mean, what you're showing the Latin for the Latin population on this last year, 2020, 2021, 80% basically did Algebra 2 completion, right? But the 3 years prior, it averages in the 60s. So it jumped almost, basically 20% almost, right? What changed last year? Why would you? What happened? I mean, the pandemic obviously was there, but
yeah, but absolutely, and I appreciate that question. A lot of factors, I would say, but the most is being flexible, and truly, with the time of instruction online, we had to hone in on essential standards. What do we have to teach? So I believe, and we can have continued conversations on, but what is taught and then how it's assessed. I also want to throw out there, because we may see a decline in this, that we have to talk about the assembly bill that allowed that pass or non-pass of a D specifically. This is another factor to consider. I just want to throw it out there that students who earned the grade of a D last spring, if asked to change to a pass, I would assume that is included in the passing of A through G.
But you're saying the previous, if they got a D, it wouldn't have been included?
That's correct, because a D is not A through G.
Actually, no, this is with a C or better. This is what our little binder says, because they indicate it as a C or better, so I don't know.
So it was not included. Okay, so scratch that last statement I made, my assumption. I will step back and say it's really beginning to think outside the box, how assessments are occurring, and truly what is taught specifically. And being flexible. We were forced to be flexible with online instruction.
So you see the numbers continuing this year?
That is our hope.
Have you seen the numbers for this semester?
We see quarter one grades. We haven't seen semester grades. Quarter one is historically a tough quarter. And so I really don't want to make predictions off that until we're more exact.
If I could just jump in,
Mhm.
though,
Please.
The quarter grades from this year versus last year were significantly improved.
Our other two teams the same as was during the pandemic. And I spoke to them about this question, and then we're going to dive more into data. But they have made systemic changes along the lines that we're discussing that they think will have similar results this semester.
I have a question too then, and this relates to both of the schools because you were both talking about algebra and you both said similar things in terms of the innovation and thinking differently about both the assessments and the key concepts part of it. That doesn't mean any rigor was left out. I mean, you're still teaching all the things that are supposed to be taught there, but you're teaching the key ones at a more profound or deeper level rather than try to shove too much in, or what would you say?
I can only speak for Mountain View High School. And I want to say mid-spring last year, we did ask our teachers to dig deeper into our kids' learning and look into their, not just their academic learning, but their social emotional learning as well. Find out what it is, where they're at, what's going on. And we found that a lot of kids were completing the homework, but they just didn't know how to submit it through Canvas or Google Classroom or whatever it was. We started giving them a helping hand. We also learned more about how they learned academically. So our teachers were able to provide more support in learning those essential standards. And so that's kind of pinpointed learning that we kind of come across. And we're hoping that this next year we can kind of continue that pinpointed learning, because that's really the gist of learning with kids. As you get to know them socially and emotionally, you got to get to know them academically as well. We have tools that we can use, and there are people here that can demonstrate how to use those tools, how to dig deeper into student learning, how to define what claims from a standard they are learning or they're not learning, how to be able to support them in that learning. So those are things that I think we need to dig deeper into and we could use. But it was basically what he had said earlier, being flexible and digging deeper into what our kids were doing.
I think a lot has to do with the foundation they come from, because if you look at your regular Latino X kids, they're basically, they're in the 90s, right? Last 3 years, basically. So, I mean, it's really another population. You have to look at the foundation, where they're coming from, right? Where, how are they being supported in previous years to be able to take on Algebra 2, right? So.
Okay.
I believe one more slide. This speaks to our subgroup of Latino students. Highlighting again that really the highlight that I was hoping to make here is RFEP students again, that success, right? And our focus and our success of being able to reclassify students who continue to see success after that reclassification. Pass back to over to Ms. Miller.
Good evening, everyone. So I just wanted to speak to our CSACE progress. As you know, we have two plans, Plan 1 and Plan 2. With Plan 1, we really focused on parent outreach as we wanted to respond to the LPO letter from last March, as well as from communications from students and families. So we really used approximately 4 to 5 week window to regularly meet with students. We used quarter and semester deadline goals and really broke down specifically what students needed to do to improve academically. And through that process, we really learned that students, may have needed more resources. Many of the students in our target list were economically disadvantaged, So, and a couple of examples of ways that we found some resources were using the Health Van and LensCrafters partnerships. So we had students that were able to receive eyeglasses, and that was, we saw a huge improvement in those students' achievement, as well as doing follow-up phone calls. Phone calls seem to work very well with outreach for these particular families, and doing follow-up phone calls multiple times when needed to get ARIES access on phones for parents. That has also made a substantial difference. And so our goal was to improve academic achievement for this group by 5%. And currently we're in phase 2, and we're next focusing on action plan development. And so here's the data from our work so thus far. I also wanted to acknowledge the support and leadership of Terry Fott with this work. I think it's been really helpful to have Terry's guidance. Our average GPA for our target group June 2021 was 1.48. For our October 15th Q1 deadline that was just mentioned, it's now 2.26, and that's a 0.78 improvement over that time. We've had some English grades, 15 improvements, 2 decline, math grades, 22 improved, 1 decline, and then 0 suspensions. And then in absences, as you can see, really only 3 students that we would categorize with some chronic absence challenges. Referrals to student success team were 3, 1 to special education. And this is a substantial improvement for us because we're taking a more systematic approach to identify supports and outreach for students that need this help, and will hopefully eliminate the need for the number of special ed referrals we're seeing.
Okay, challenges and support needed. So as we work to align our CSACE plan, our WASP plan, our site plan to our LCAT plan, we recognize a number of different things. We need to provide training to our teachers so they can provide more tier 1 supports in order to help reduce the number of students being referred to special education services. We also recognize the need for more mental health services. We've noticed an increase in number of students who need services, but more than that, there are services that we can't provide here at Mountain View High School, and the number of students needing those services are also increasing. As mentioned earlier, we have an increase in the number of EL students enrolling this year, and we are expecting more EL students to enroll in the spring semester. How many do we have in the hopper? 6 in the hopper? 7 in the hopper coming, and they're EL 1 too? EL 1 too. Mostly EL 1? Yes. Mostly EL 1s. So they're just continuing to come all the time. So we also know the need for other alternative programs for our students who are struggling. And these alternative programs need to be administered or made available to them earlier so that we can catch them on during their early high school years. Some of these kids need help before they're 16, and a lot of our programs don't let them access that help until they're 16. So we need to get some kind of a program in there for them to access it earlier. The sooner we get it, we provide that service to them, the sooner we can help them and catch them back up. Finally, we need to find ways to connect our Latinx families more regularly in order to increase their involvement in the education of their students. Having said that, you asked that question earlier, what is it we're doing? To be honest with you, this is a very young staff, and something was happening before we got here. It was making it successful. And I can't tell you right now what it is. I'm just not familiar enough with it yet. But whatever it is, we need to figure that out and continue that. 80% of your kids at MVHS do very, very well. But I believe we can do 95% if we address the issues that we're looking at right now with our EL kids. You guys have anything else you want to add? Questions?
I submitted a bunch ahead. Thank you for getting back to me. Terry too for helping with answers.
I have some questions, general, not necessarily for this group, but maybe more for Terry or for William or other stuff on the other stuff that was presented. Is this a good time?
Yeah, I think so, unless anybody's got something specific for the 5 standing up right now.
So one is on the question, so with the study session, right? So we had a bunch of questions we had during the study session.
So I think the Mountain View team can sit down. I think it's, please, yeah.
Sure, yeah, absolutely, of course.
Okay, thank you to both high school teams for being here, staying here, supporting each other, working together. I appreciate it.
Sanjay, I wrote in the Q&A doc that
I saw it.
Submit that shortly.
You can't spend, okay, good, 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 good. Yeah, 'cause you mentioned it was in the presentation, but I don't remember all the questions that
I
were
got this
asked, so
one
that's
at
why maybe we could
1:30
get
or
those
2
questions
o'clock.
that we asked in the study session, you know.
Absolutely.
Awesome, thanks. The other, then your response on the 504 is, I'm not sure I understood that response. And maybe if you could just, you know,
Yeah.
so I mean, because I guess, are these numbers, when they say yes, the yes, no, and grand total, are these, the yes are people that have been not accepted into the program?
No. So that when you add the yes and no together, that's the total population.
Right.
So the yeses mean they have a 504, the no's mean that they do not. It has no indication that they applied and were denied. It just says that they do not have a 504. Almost all students who are submitted to an initial evaluation for a 504 get a 504. If they don't, we don't track them as a no, different to any other student that doesn't have a 504 naturally. So the no is just the rest of the population of that demographic that does not have a 504, not that they were denied.
I see. So this number is just the total, so the grand total number are the number of people that applied, though, for that each subgroup, right, though?
The yeses are the students that have a 504.
Have a 504, and the no's are basically that they don't have a 504.
Yeah,
but they must have applied, that's why they're no.
No, they're just students, they're just the rest of the population.
Oh, the rest of the, I see I see, got it, oh, okay, I get it, all right. Okay, all right, now I get that. All right, thank you.
Hey,
All right,
Terry,
that's the question.
hey, Terry, I don't know if you have this answer off the top of your head. Oh, wait, Mike is still here. Mike might be able to answer it. I'm sorry. Daniela referenced 6 potential new or almost ready new CTE pathways. What are those?
Top of my head. It's a athletic training one. It's a hospitality one. It's an engineering one. It's a computer science one. It's that's all I can remember right now. But I have it written down someplace.
Okay, so engineering has been there for a while, but the fact that it's now officially a pathway, does that mean it's a 4-year strand or a 3-year strand, or what's the definition of that then?
It's either 2 or 3. We don't have a capstone class for it yet.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking for. Do you have that listed?
Yeah, so it could be either 2 or 3, but in order to be a pathway, it has to have an initial course or 2 and a capstone.
Okay.
And I know, Terry, you have the math.
Yes, I was just gonna clarify, so the health science with the sports med, we're gonna add the sports med 2.
Got
So
it.
right now we just have sports med, but now we're gonna teach 2 separate classes of sports medicine, 1 and 2.
Yep.
As Mike noted, we already have the engineering pathway.
Yep.
Looking at a public service pathway that includes ethnic studies, social justice, and perhaps a capstone into the social justice. And Dr. Juliet would be a part of supporting that CTE pathway.
Sure.
Looking at an environmental science pathway, we have a teacher that can do the CT or the environmental science and perhaps adding an environmental resource. This is probably not, this is definitely not 22, 23, maybe 23, 24. And then Mike mentioned the hospitality, and then Lori Knott teaches a commercial art, which she is CTE certified, and perhaps pairing that with publication design, which is the yearbook, and creating a pathway to that.
Okay, and I mean, yay, I want to clap too. So which of these might be online this coming fall then, or might be ready to go this coming fall? I mean, engineering is already there, but you said specifically not environmental science, health science, sports med, maybe, or?
So the sports med 2 is going to roll out 23, 24.
Okay, all right.
And so we're going to continue with our same pathways for next year.
Okay,
We
so-
are looking to add a dual enrollment though, dual enrollment for Spanish and dual enrollment for environmental science.
Okay, so basically we've got the engineering for the next couple of years, and then these other 5 maybe coming on.
The computer science, the intro to computer science and advanced computer science, that's already a CTE pathway, so that stays, and then the
Okay.
environmental or the engineering pathway
Is already there, right? Okay,
Those additional ones are
Okay.
not rolling out next year.
got it. Thank you.
Terry, there's that master spreadsheet that Brigida had worked on a while ago, and I think that came back up to current last year, maybe, is that right? Do you know what I'm talking about, the spreadsheet?
I do.
Yes.
I know.
I was
yeah.
wondering if maybe when we go to introduce the next ones, if we could have a copy of the updated one of all the courses between the 2 schools.
For the 21-22 school year.
Right, which includes all the courses offered in all the, both schools, right? And it also tells whether they're A through G or not. I mean, it has a lot of detail on it. I'd like to have a updated copy of that. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
And we do have the current request for an update on career technical pathways across the district, so that will be coming in the spring.
Yeah, great. Okay, go ahead, Catherine. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say that I'm happy to hear that the pandemic had some good out of it. We certainly had all staff have a crash course in ed tech, if you will. And then the fact that some of these assessments and flexibilities and so on were analyzed in that context, but they turned out to be good things to do anyway. It's just that people hadn't thought of them because, you tend to roll along as your same old sometimes. That now we're, changing it up. I like to shake it up and see that we're changing things for the better all the time.
Do you remember and Sunday brought this up, last October when we ran our Ds and Fs and the numbers were basically doubled? I mean, just a point of pride for our staff who really rolled up their sleeves and took a look at, okay, what is essential at what I'm doing right now and how am I supporting students? And I really think that moment was the moment that we all had to put our heads together and figure out how to make powerful change moving forward.
So I have a question about that too. Given the dynamics of last year, right, there were no sports. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't do anything. Teachers were pretty much, 24/7 on laptops, right? Is there any kind of maybe going after this year, looking forward at what the difference was in the amount of time that staff, teachers were one-on-one with students versus what we do in an academic year, which is the norm. You're in the classroom and you answer things afterwards. But when there were no extracurricular sports or anything, there could have been extra factors that caused students to be able to excel more because, and given mental health and wellness and all that, that's out, that's even a different story. But I think it's hard to do, apples and apples when you have different environments where students are in learning. So it's impressive to see that they did really well and we've shown improvement. I just am looking towards the future to think that this was a different type of year and it's really hard to compare. And it's nice to see that we did well. The students did well and the staff all did well. And kudos. I just don't want to set a precedence looking forward that this is what we anticipate when there's so many different factors. Kids are doing sports and they have all these other things, which is great. And we did see wellness impacts. So, I'm just setting it up to see what we're going to see in the future.
But I think we have to be careful when we say they did well last year, because remember, we had a report last year that Rita presented where obviously they didn't do that, right? Distance learning is not a good situation for learning, right? Because they have one thing most everywhere in the whole country, experience, right? It was not, exactly.
That was what I saw that was significant, the 1920 data in the 2021, the big jumps in 2021 when we brought back some of the extracurriculars, when we brought back some students as early as February, March, and they started to get out and move around a little bit more. And we were getting much better at
the distance learning as well. But I thought that big jump really spoke to the need for them to be together.
Okay, anything else? Should we move on to the next item?
I'm good.
Okay, all right, 1,000 thanks. Thank you, Terry, to your team. Thank you, Mike and Wynn, for pulling your teams together and having them here. Much appreciated. Yeah, fun to see everybody. Okay, item 18.2, resolution 21/22-13, developer impact fees report for 2020, 2021, and this goes to Mike, I'm assuming.
Yep. This is just our annual report that's required money we brought in for developer fees and then ways to spend. So that's listed that report for you. Part of it is the annual debt payment for Alta Vista, which was constructed over a decade ago. We're still having debt service on it, as well as growth related projects. So modular classrooms being repurposed, office and warehouse, as well as some of the fees to help us look at future growth as well as those programs. So I'll put them there for you and share it. So those funds, right, we don't use them every year because they roll over and projects.
Okay, so if there aren't questions, I would take a motion. Or if there are questions, go ahead.
I know I sent this question in, Mike, but I just kind of wanted you to explain the, what happened with the cafeteria type funding, why we're, restricted for 0 this year,
Oh, we're on the, this is a different item.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're on developer fees. We're on developer fees.
I'm sorry. All right, thank you. We get to that when we get to it.
We didn't do anything.
We're so excited to get to the next one. All right.
All right, I move that we approve resolution 21/22-13, developer impact fees report for 2020 to 2021.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second from Catherine and Sanjay to approve the resolution as presented, because I'm not going to repeat all of that. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Thank you, Mike. And then we're on to item 18.3, which is where Debbie's question falls.
It's a good segue, Debbie. Thanks for that, right? You can start with the good. Yeah. My goodness. All right. Well, that was a great lead in. You set it right up. Well, thank you. And we're excited to present the first interim budget report for the 2021-2022 school year. And Elvis Lopez, our recently appointed fiscal services director, is joining me, but he's strategically hiding himself between me and the camera. So, yeah. So anyway, we'll dive right in. As is our norm, a lot of this material is presented in the board packet in far more detail, including the standardized account code structure forms. So for the board or members of the public that want to really dive in deep, it's all there for you. This slide deck presentation is just a high level overview and update, and really the story, the takeaway is that MVLA School District is in strong financial health. And we looked at that, these initial financial data through the year and as well as the years ahead. And so that should end up county reviewing it with a positive certification for our first interim budget report. As a reminder, maintaining fiscal stability is one of our district goals. It's up here on the screen, it's posted on the wall. And so this aspect of what we do in business services ties into us achieving those goals to help support student achievement, of course. And it was a nice kind of balance, not balance, but really affirmation for the school presentations earlier. I didn't set them up. I actually didn't know they were going to present that, but when they talk about the facilities and the technology improvements and other material, capital, physical investments in the schools, as well as equipment, to see that come to fruition. So that was a nice intro. So thank you, Mike and Wynn and your teams for doing that. This slide is just a graphic we started to introduce last year. It's just a reminder that when we look at budget and finances, it's important to remember MVLAs in the context of much broader stories, and yet it's unique, right? So we operate within the larger California state budget and the local control funding formula, even though we are not funded on the local control funding formula basis. And yet that's the narrative, and that's a lot about California state funding. And I know the board recently came back from the CSBA conference, and so 90% of districts, that's what they're focused on. That's what a lot of the news reports. And yet
we are one of those basic aid or community funded districts. Within Santa Clara County, there's a portion that are basic aid or community funded, but some are LCFF funded. And even within the community funded districts, MVLA is unique to even Los Altos School District, one of our partner districts, or Mountain View Wispin, or Los Gatos Saratoga, or Palo Alto Unified. So just, we keep that in mind, especially when we hear numbers and what our local property taxes are doing. And that rate is different even from our partner districts, from which we, our boundaries cover their boundaries, and yet the tax rate that was set in Prop 13 and how many cents per dollar was going to each district was frozen. Is not necessarily formulaic in a proportional way, right? Or what's happening in other communities is different. Or when Stanford, expands their hospital, that impacts Palo Alto Unified in a way that doesn't impact MVLA, or Levi Stadium is built, that impacts Santa Clara Unified in a way different from MVLA. So that's just a reminder of our local circumstances drive our budget here. All right, big picture takeaway, you see total revenue, total expenditures on this slide, and transfers out to other funds. Adopted budget, which we brought to you way back end of May and then adopted in June, and where we stand at first interim. First interim is a snapshot, October 31st, what our financials look like. So you can see some differences, and Elvis is going to speak to the next couple slides unpacking that. But we have less revenue than we first anticipated, and that's due to property taxes. I'll cover that on another slide. Expenditures are up, but most of that's due to one-time revenue sources, state and federal COVID funds, which we will speak to. We did speak about cafeteria funds and transfers out. And so that's also on a coming slide. So I'll hold my answer to your question, Debbie. And then the increase of the fund balance currently is showing 890,000. And yet that groups all the general fund dollars together, both unrestricted and restricted. And so although that's one takeaway, we really want to unpack that to understand what is at our discretion, disposal to make budget adjustments, and what's more restricted. So I'm going to turn it over to Elvis for the next 2 slides, and we'll change spots. So he gets a good sign up.
I'll get the good sign up. Even though we did not color coordinate, it was just happened by accident. The blue and the gray just came up in the morning. I did not call them. I had iron last night. So this is a little bit more breakdown. Mike and I are actually talking about it today. Unrestricted, for people, I had a conversation with my wife, tried to explain to her what I do. Unrestricted is kind of like my checking account, I tell her. It's like, that's, kind of where everything comes in. Restricted side is kind of like your flexible spending account, where it's restricted. You can only spend on certain parameters, which include special education, foundation, one-time COVID funds, donations, and routine restricted maintenance. So a lot of this is restricted to certain parameters. And unrestricted is based on pretty much what we have at the bottom line, which we can do what we decide to do on projects and stuff like that to help the school better. So actually, the total expenditures, again, on the restricted side, is one-time money we're trying to spend down that we got from COVID funds that we've had carry over that we have to spend this year. So we're trying to spend them all down. Contributions that you can see is money movement from special ed. Again, going to special ed money, routine restricted, and also money that we get from foundation who donates to us, so then to cover some of the salaries to help have the library open for longer hours, class size reduction, and other that good stuff that we get from them. On the bottom, you see the transfers out. That's only our OPEC, not including cafeteria. Like I said, Mike will speak more on it on why we're not transferring to cafeteria. So this is a quick snapshot of it.
On that, you mentioned the COVID fund, you're trying to spend that down. So, I mean, depending on the fund.
Correct.
That we got it from, right? They don't have, I mean, like the CARES Act doesn't have to be spent by until September 2022, right?
Correct.
I think there's another fund that.
There's
2023 and
funds,
2024, right?
Yeah,
So we have time. It's not like
Correct.
we have to.
Correct. But
So
we
we want
want
to visit this year.
But we want to make sure we capture some of the expenses this year, so that
Okay.
at the end of the year, we're not trying to figure out where we can spend something when we want to get out done now. Instead of not trying to lump up these huge amount of expenditures all at once. So we want to make sure we get ahead of it.
Yeah, and I think this next slide that Elvis will speak to speaks to that point of what's been spent current year versus what is being pushed out in the future years. Okay.
So this next slide is again, unrestricted side is our increase that we have 1.9 million. And restricted side, negative 1.1 is it's us expending all those one-time monies down. Again, we're not spending all of them, but we're trying to get ahead of it because we want to make sure we capture all the expenditures for all these ESSER funds and the COVID funds that we have. But again, we have a healthy balance because it keeps going up on unrestricted. But on the live, you saw there are two effects earlier. You'll see only an increase of 190,000. That's because again, restricted side we're spending down these monies.
So this shows, I mean, it looks like, oh, we're deficit spending and restricted, right? I mean, to use the word, the imagery Elvis used, you have your flexible spending account, you know, you can carry over money. So you start the year with money in there and you might spend more than you put in. So it looks like quote a negative, but really there's still money left in that account at the end. And so that's what's happening on the restricted side. What happens, you know, when you group all those together, right, that's when we get the doesn't show up $890,000 total, but that's merging the two, right? And so we always like to pull that out because, you know, restricted, there's limits on what's going on there. And we started with, you know, a little over 2.6 million. We're spending a bunch of that. Money's coming in, it's coming out. And yet, even when we're done, there's a balance remaining there. But, you know, that's focused, like you said, COVID. It's a lot of donation accounts that we do roll over year to year, and that's a variety of donation accounts.
I guess the question I have though is that, so since we, you know, some of those ESSER funds, like we have until 2024, how much do we decide to just keep, you know, in the buffer until then, or until we think we need to spend? I mean, I know that's the tough thing to predict, right? So how much, you know, do we really need to spend today?
Yeah. And we don't have an exact dollar amount to answer that, right? And a lot of it's driven upon need and the programs we have in place. Our spending practice and philosophy is we spend the dollars that expire first, right? We're going to spend those, right? That have a closer deadline, as well as the most restricted, you know, dollars, right? So really the ESSER funds, the education, elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds, internet at home, right? Those are is the least restricted and the broadest categories of how we can spend them. So there are discussions even just between Elvis and I and the business office of, okay, there's when the expense comes in, there's like 5 different buckets we could put it into. Well, which one, you know, that's the nearest deadline. Is that what's the one's most restricted, and then go under that and let's spend that money first. And so part of this budget update becomes challenging because there is a little bit of the money's coming in and we're going to show we're spending it. And we know kind of the broad categories, but there's not this finite, I know exactly, you know, how many computers or how much PPE we're going to spend at this moment. But there's a general confidence, general knowledge that we're going to have to spend on that, right? But as the expenses come in, we then start to reconcile those amounts. And so that number, right, of expenditures on the prior side, that 35 million are restricted might be different when we come at second and or the end of the year. You know, it might be less because we decided, oh, we're going to defer some of those expenses, use those funds and have a long, later deadline to spend. And then, you know, part of that too, and that whole thinking is it's one-time funds. So let's be very, very, very conscientious and explicit about spending it on one-time expenses. So we don't burden ourselves with, we start a program and the funding might last 1 year, or maybe we spread it over 2, you know, with the COVID funds. And then all of a sudden we have this obligation going forward and not the ongoing revenue source. So that's often the key piece when we look at some of those dollars. So even with certain staffing additions, and I didn't coordinate with Mountain High School, but some certificate staff may increase depending on what was included in that figure. Some of our additional support services for students in the area of wellness are professional expert contracts or agreements with different agencies on a limited basis while we're using those funds that give the district flexibility to make financial decisions going forward about some of those services, right?
So real quick, while we were down at CSBA, we all heard the same number, and this whole state narrative of not right districts not spending their COVID monies, and the state doesn't want to throw any more money at us because we haven't spent it. So I'm sitting in that session. I emailed Mike, and I must have caught him at his desk or something because I can't believe how fast you answered me. But Mike, with a quick estimate, hit us across 50% and then planning for out years. And then the same comment on, one-time dollars. But anyway, I was just really glad, right? Because the state narrative is that districts are not using the money and they're not using it in the now for kids now who are struggling. And so thank you. Thank you for both getting back to me and for good use of the money.
Well, and there was concern too, even how we reported it, and I'm gonna cross the line into too much detail, but even how districts were required to report some of those planned expenditures, if it didn't look like we were spending it, the state was gonna, because the federal government gave it to the state shared the school districts, and the state was looking at opportunity, well, we'll just take that money back and spend it on other stuff. And so they allowed districts, they reopened the reporting deadline to allow districts to more accurately show, yes, if we have a purchase order for it, we can actually count that, because the first way they told us to report it, we can include that. We spent all of our in-person instruction grant last year to get students and staff to come back to school, which was a big thing. We've obligated quite a bit of that expanded learning opportunity money, which was the largest chunk, about $3 million, which we received this year. Not can be confused with the expanded learning opportunity program. First 3 words were the same, but there's a P on the end. And we don't talk about it here because it's really for K-8 districts, but I'm sure you hear a lot about it amongst your School Boards Association discussions and different fiscal report articles. Although that is even many districts at my CEO meetings that talk about to the extent of thanks for the incentive. It's cost a lot more to run that program, and conversations are they going to accept the money or go with that? So that's, again, goes back to that visual of MVLA and our unique situation. So where are some of the changes from? We mentioned we're lowering revenue, and this is lower in secured property taxes. It's coming at 4.85%. We budgeted 6%, and so that's lower than budgeted for the first time in the 8 years I've been presenting this, and I'm okay with that, right? But that reflects, actual real dollars less. Unsecured property taxes are lower than last year by $398,000. Now that number will change. Secured taxes they project, unsecured the county controller, as they receive it, they tell us what it is. So that number always starts low and then climbs. So I anticipate that'll increase throughout the year. And we hear a lot. We think property taxes, we think assessed value. We look around at homes for sale on the streets. We live in this community, and we think, really, only 4.85%. What's going on? And we just have to remember this revenue, there's a lag. So it's not current market conditions. This reflects the assessed valuation in 2020, 2021. And for those of you that just paid your property tax bill and looked at how the assessed valuation is calculated, because the California Consumer Price Index was only 1.1% in 2020, very different than what was just announced last week nationwide CPI, but because it was 1.1%, that actually is the maximum that assessed valuation can grow by under Prop 13, right? So Prop 13 says 2% or CPI, whichever is lower. So most years that's always 2%. So your home doesn't change hands, your assessed valuation grows by 2%. You can book that in our assessment roll, 2% plus all the property that changes hands. Well, when CPI only grows by 1.1%, we don't get the 2% bump up. So that 4.85% number reflects that lower inflation in 2020, but now in 21, 22, that's the income, the revenue we're collecting. So I know I just threw out a lot of numbers, but the key thing is it's lag, right? There's assessed value and there's tax collections and the money comes to us. So we continue to monitor that, and then for the future years, we'll look at what the growth is looking at. State budget changes. After we adopted the budget, state adopts their budget. One of the significant ones, and I'm only highlighting one here, but they had additional programs. The largest one is this Educator Effectiveness Grant, just around 1.1 million, which Terry presented a plan for that in November's board meeting, and then the board approved on consolidated motion. And that's one of those interesting things, to your point, Sanjay. We're showing all the revenue this year, but we have 5 years to spend that. So we've actually spaced that out in 5 equal increments, about 240,000 each year. So we see that in the out years planning for that. So that was a big chunk of money. To me, the other ones are smaller, $50,000, $100,000 in the state budget. We always have this one-time spending The county rules show all the donation buckets of money. We spend it at the end of the year. By the end of the year, we never spend it. So then it carries over the next year and that beginning balance starts higher and we have to show we're spending it. And then I will pause, no contribution to cafeteria fund. This is significant. And then it's the first time I've seen it in 8 years. And I think going back to Joe White, my predecessor, Elvis has been in the business office longer. I don't think we've ever had a year in which there was no contribution to the cafeteria fund. In fact, last year, 2021, it was greater than normal because we had expenses and people, and we had actually meal revenue coming in. We weren't even on campus, we weren't selling meals and all that stuff. So what's happening this year is the extension of the federal seamless summer option, right? So this is the federal meals program. They say, feed all the kids and we'll reimburse you $4 and change for that reimbursable meal. So that's why we're serving over 1,100 meals, lunches a day on campus, including a lot of pizza, but salads and chicken bowls or rice bowls and chicken sandwiches, things like that. And so what we're found this year is that revenue from that program is significant enough where it is covering all of our costs in the cafeteria fund. So the normal 300,000 to 350 to last year, I think it was over 700,000. Thank you, Elvis. Right? We don't have this year. And it might cause us to pause and say, wow, this is only this year because the seamless summer program was extended just for this school year and it expires unless the federal government changes it, expires in June 2022. Except that the state in the budget announced, hey, the state of California, we want all kids to eat. So this year, the state's not on the hook. It's the federal government for seamless summer. But in the following school year, starting in July 2022, the state has committed, as long as funding is available, which is their key term in a lot of budget things, that we kind of default to 2019. We have the normal meal applications, kids qualify, we submit all that stuff. The federal government gives us some reimbursement for that. We get some from the existing state programs. So what the state has said is, fine, get all that district, and then we will give you the difference to make up for that $4 and something cents per meal. So the funding source going future in the multi-year projection show won't come necessarily from the federal government, but what we are told is the state will kick in that difference. So the funding in essence looks the same, it's just a different source. So that's why, at least right now, first interim, we have continued that no contribution to cafeteria fund into the future years in our multi-year projection. Now, that could change, depends on your confidence in the state government, depends on whether we think the federal government might change their tune and extend their federal, reimbursable meal program. And that's more of a political question. But my sense is, I was down at my own CBO conference and I went to a workshop on this very thing, is that this universal meals is very, very, very popular, right? I think we heard it earlier tonight too about just having kids on campus and serving those kids the meals, hugely popular. So that gives me more confidence than I might otherwise have about at least the state kind of keeping their commitment to say, hey, we're going to try and find ways to fund this. Now, I think many of us have been around long enough to see the state government budget, big swings up and down, whatever cliff we're always about to fall off, this we hear about. So, as always, remains to be seen, but that's what's happening with the cafeteria fund. So, Debbie, I'm going to pause there to see if that addressed your question. If there's more to it, please ask.
No, I know that we used to deficit spend it, right? Because we never, and so now we're not deficit spending, but the amount that we're not spending, that money was still allocated at some point in the budget, right? And I was just wondering where, does that just stay in the general fund now? Is that right?
Yeah, it does currently.
All right.
It's not the dotted line of saying, oh, that 350,000 that had been going out, we're now shifting to this specifically. It just kind of goes, it's grouped back in the general fund. And as we're showing an increase that fund balance, right, there's some discretion over how those funds could be used.
Because I know every year when we did the budget, we'd always think of some less creative ways that we weren't deficit spending. And it just seems like we always deficit spend. Yeah. So it's nice to know that all the kids that want to eat have food on campuses, and that's really good. I'm glad that the state and the federal government are helping us out.
Mike, did they at your conference, did they say what it would cost the state annually to keep this? And well, let's start there.
I didn't hear a specific dollar amount. So no, there is concern that some of the larger districts would eat up. There's certain calculations that would eat up most of the money the state set aside for that.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
what happens in that scenario is a prorated amount.
Right. And do they put it in Prop 98 or do they not put it in Prop? Right. Because right now it's not in Prop 98. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I was just curious if there was an annual dollar amount
There
that
was
they would
definitely
have
a
to
push
hit.
to, hey, for the state to be able to do this, there's pressure on districts to still go through the traditional mechanisms.
Sure.
To get the qualification of students and local certification and other means, because really the state's viewpoint is let's still rely on the existing long-standing funding sources.
Mhm. Well, that makes sense. Get it from the feds if you can, and then backfill it. That makes sense.
And like
Yeah.
it's
That's
going to
good.
cost a district like ours, it's going to cost the state more because historically we don't have many students, getting reimbursable, qualifying for reimbursement meals and taking advantage of it. Whereas other districts, are already at universal meals because they're low income and qualifying student counts are already high. We're fed every kid either a specific school site or the entire district, depending upon.
Well, I think historically too, not all of our families who could have availed themselves of the service have actually completed the paperwork. Correct. I mean, I feel like we were underreporting on many fronts, and now all of our families can eat. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go
The
ahead.
challenge would
We've been
be
here a long time.
They
Sorry.
haven't had to fill out an application in the current
Yeah.
year. So that was one of the talking points of a push to make sure that happens going into next year.
Yeah.
And make it easy and put out those forms for folks.
Well, a good also part to it is the students that would not partake in it because of the stigma or whatever.
Exactly. It
around
eliminated it. It's all
Now it's
gone.
all gone.
Okay.
So
It's
now
awesome. Yeah.
Excellent.
I think what also eliminates that was now everyone has to input their number, so it doesn't matter if you
Yeah.
are being reduced or you pay.
Mhm.
It's all, everyone's done the same thing, so you can't tell who is who anymore.
Right,
Before,
right.
the only person who put a number in was the person who got a free and reduced lunch.
Right.
And then everyone else showed cash. Now it's everyone does the same thing, and you can't tell who is who.
Right.
So on the effect on the restricted, so how much for special ed, how much do we get for SELPA?
SELPA.
Thank you for the
I'll
offer.
just broadly say we get 4.2 million total in special ed revenues. That's federal sources, it's state to the SELPA, so 4.2 million.
Okay.
And we have to, specifically for special ed, I'm going off of my notes, but this is the all fund spreadsheet that I know was, a printing copy was provided to you guys. We contribute 14.7 million, so of this 17 million, 14.7 is going from here to restricted to support special ed.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you for this, by the way.
The other money is going to kind of zero out other grant programs if we get a hospital grant, right? And the salaries are more than that, so we move money over to offset that.
So
Special ed.
in some of our special ed cases where we have to fund students that go to another private facility.
Yep.
There's state funding available for that we have to apply for.
No.
Yeah.
There's $6 million or more than that, I think. That's one of the conferences I went to.
Oh, I was in that one.
Yeah, you were
Was
in that one too,
it,
right?
wait, in the coming budget year or proposed
It's
or?
every year. It's every year. They allocate funding in the state specifically for students that
non-public
have to go to
school and
private,
NPS
or someplace that
placements.
the district cannot support. Because then there's some districts that are obviously don't have the funds that we have that can't afford it, right? So what do they do? It's not fair to those kids who can't do it, right? So the state has funding for any student, but you have to apply for it, right? It's not, it's one of those things you have to apply for and get it. And that's all I was gonna, so my question was.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Are we applying?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'd be curious of the criterion too, because 6 million across the state.
I have the slides that she
Yeah.
presented. It may be in those
That'd be
slides.
great.
I can
See
look
it.
at it. Otherwise, but the slide has her number on it. So
Okay.
best thing is to call that lady. She was very good. She was extremely, knowledgeable. But I can forward you that slide deck.
I appreciate
and,
that.
Yeah,
If there's dollars out there, we can go after them.
Yeah, I mean, it may dry up, and maybe they may not fund because of the district we are, but, I mean, obviously if it's there, it'd be good to have, okay.
I'm going to move us on to just snapshot of reserve levels. Familiar slide format. We have our board policy and reserve has 3 components to it. It's the 3% required minimum, of course, which we meet every year. It's 2 months operating expenditures, which continues to be a moving target because it's a percentage of a number, and that number grows every year. But we are getting closer. So you can see, the target's just under 20 million, and when you combine the assigned fund balances we have, that's over 15 million currently, right? That's based upon the 1.9 million addition and unrestricted fund balance. And then other post-employment benefit, that's the 3rd category. We do a study showing the locally negotiated retiree benefits, so not STRS, not PERS. The most recent study done this past summer, which was full-time, is that liability. And we, with the contribution this year, will have 5.8 million in that fund. Now, this slide is revised from what was published in the board pack with the asterisk in the bottom, and kind of brings us full circle to one of the first presentations tonight with that housing for Santa Clara County. And so part of that, when that presentation that Phil referenced a couple of years ago about it, at that time, we decided to assign $600,000 within that OPEB fund for this purpose, right? Because that money is assigned for employees, and so that would be an appropriate place to spend it from. And I'm glad you asked the question earlier, Phil, about, hey, is that purely a grant, or there was conversation about ways to have that money be refilled in that fund. So that's what that asterisk there represents, just that we remember 600,000 of that is for that Santa Clara County housing project. Right, and then we look at all that as the collective reserve, right? So anything in OPEB above that, there's opportunity to, is that the right place to leave it there? As that liability changes, is it better to categorize it in another category? But for our purposes tonight, that's what the numbers show. Okay, it's reserve. All right, Elvis.
This is a multi-year projection. Back to me. 2021, again, this is like combined with restricted and unrestricted. We have an increase of 190,160. Outer years, we have a smaller. Again, this is because one-time money is going away. So we spend less when the money is gone. But all 3 years, on the outer years, you see that we still have a fund balance increases. A lot of this, the lowering of the increase in this line is again, it's the one-time money, 214,000 for the educator grant that we're spending down. Another, there's one at 380,000 that you guys referenced earlier about which is special ed money that we have to spend out later on. So that's spent out in 2022, 23, we have it out. So a lot of that is being spent out the latter part of the years. But overall, we're still in a healthy fund balance. So the increases. Like I said, it's a combination of both restricted and unrestricted put together.
And this is what the county looks at. You guys know this when they look at positive certification of our ability to meet our financial obligations this year and then the next 2 years. So this shows we can meet it based upon our assumptions. And those assumptions are the key part of what drives those numbers, right? Budgets are living documents. They do change, and they're based only on our best estimates, information at the time. Right. So one of the things driving the out years is our enrollment, right? And we're assuming enrollment's declining. This is total district enrollment, right? And we have a demographic study that indicated this would be happening. This is outside of any new housing growth that's in concept in the city of Mountain View, which is a different topic. Right, but the demographic study that was done in 2016 showed this year peaking and then declining slightly before tapering off. And so we're now in that year, right? And so our responsibility is to make appropriate adjustments to our expenditures based upon our enrollment. Usually that goes along with staffing, and that's where, as a team, and services and personnel, we look at all that. Within enrollment changes, there's enrollment certain programs, right? that have different staffing formulas, say than, the general education programs. But that's what's behind it. And those numbers are subject to change as we do deeper dives and look at, enrollment for next year. But that's a big factor. You see our revenues based upon secured property tax growth. So those out years have not changed from adopted budget. We left them the same. We'll refine that when we do second interim and back presenting this in March, right? By then we'll get several more months of rural growth from the county assessor office. And what is 5%? Based upon what we hear in the news, perhaps that'll be larger. Remains to be seen. We'll take a look at that, right? And as Elvis talked about this prior slide, it's not much of an increase in the fund balance in that middle year, what's in green. Well, part of that is because you see STRS costs are going up, right? Over 2 percentage points from current year to the next year. Now it stays flat. So year to year changes, you don't have that much in the third year, but next year is a big jump. Even if everything stayed the same number of certificate staff, same salaries, the cost goes up just because of the STRS increase. So that's a factor pushing on our expenditures of our budget. CalPERS goes up by a larger amount. That's a lower dollar amount for our districts and pretty much every district, but that's also a factor increase in that. Okay. So again, those numbers, and what we showed here are all mushed together, restricted, unrestricted. That fund balance is growing, not by as much in the middle year, but partly because we're spending some unrestricted money that Elvis mentioned. And as always, this time of year, there's still a long road ahead. We monitor property tax growth. We monitor state budget projections. In January, the governor will release his first budget proposal for the following fiscal year. So we'll monitor what programs are in that. There's a lot of, we've gotten almost adept, I wouldn't say proficient yet, at all the reports we have to submit from various COVID funds. So we thank the governments for those relief funds, and yet the reports we have to submit, constantly. It's a double-edged sword, right? So we'll continue to do that. We had our health insurance renewal rates in our budget. We incorporated 10%. We got those renewal rates. Those came in after October 31st. We had open enrollment after that. So those rates are not reflected here, but those renewal rates came in at much lower than 10%, right? So what we expected come January when the new premium year starts, we expected that growth will be much less. So that'll be a little bit lower expenditure. So we'll incorporate that. We will be negotiating with our employee associations, DTA and CSEA. We talked about enrollment, talked about staffing, and then we adjust and revise that and come back to you guys at second interim, as well as keeping you updated along the way. Here's your cheat sheet for the SACS forms. That's just for reference. I leave it in there now. And then lastly, credit goes to the amazing team. Of course, Elvis has been on the team, but a new role, so it's exciting to actually co-present with somebody this time. And it's not after midnight. I don't know if you guys remember last year, it was via Zoom, but it was, I think, the following day when I got to this part. And we do have some new team members. Rochelle joined us in payroll. Emily Nguyen in accounting. Pearl had come over from Mountain View, so new to the business services office. So it's a great team, and we're interviewing tomorrow to fill Elvis's vacant position, and then we will kind of have a full roster back at that point. So that concludes our presentation. Of course, we'll take any questions you might have, and beyond that, it is an action item, I think, to approve the first report.
I just had one question having to do with the sex forms and Fund 67, because then in that report, I was always interested in all the S's and O's that you put in your report. It says under S7B, other self-insurance benefits, does the district operate any self-insurance programs? Then in parentheses, it says, for example, workman's comp. But isn't dental a self-insurance program? It's self-insurance dental. So that we answered that question, no, we don't.
What I was doing Matt from last year was workman's comp is different than self-insurance from dental. So that's, I kept it going the same way because we always put no. Because our dental we pay out of Fund 670, so we recruit the funds in 010 and then we move the money over to pay off everything.
So we can look into that. The guys who got
I was
services.
just wondering why, to me, use the same word, so
Yeah.
how come we don't do it the same way?
Yeah,
We
we can
don't
check
call it the
on
same
that.
thing.
It becomes a very technical term
Mhm.
sometimes, right, in terms of all the criteria and standards, right, that we fill out in those documents,
Mhm.
as opposed to maybe the more casual way we might refer to it, right, in terms of funding our dental.
Mhm.
Right, because our dental is not so much, oh, you pay a premium and the insurer guesses at what their coverage might be, and here's what we go. It's really based upon what we paid out and they divide it amongst the numbers, so.
Okay, I was just curious what the difference was between self-insured and self-insured.
Sure.
You
Reasonable
can
question.
tell me later.
Okay.
Question?
Yeah, so, we should be getting some more money, which is always good, right? So we passed the Invest in America Act, right? What I understand is, so California will get about $65 billion for broadband. And so I don't know, we still don't know what we're gonna get right yet. So I don't know when that will happen. I don't know when we'll get that. But I understand that funding can be used to replace lead pipes, zero and low emissions, school buses, and some other equipment for us. So I'm wondering, I guess we need to really look at the details of what the money can be spent on. But a lot of things that we're planning right now in terms of construction, it would be good to just kind of earmark something, just because I think in our planning, if we understand, if we are, we may get some funding, if you can find out, I don't know whether you have some inroads to what's going on, in terms of funding is going to be allocated. Yeah. It would be good to know what that is, so we can earmark maybe, future funds, what we want to do. Sure. I know we talked about more charging stations for electric vehicles, but if it's something like that, it can be used for and all those things. So that is, okay. Other items, then we have solar panels and all the other things that we're looking at. Yeah, certainly. That's great, to look at all of those various sources of funds, and like with the charging stations, we're putting in underground infrastructure to add more in our current construction, and looking to partner with that same company with a grant through Barrier Quality Management to actually get the equipment. But certainly, yeah. And I'll ask around to see what details might be coming out about how that might be apportioned, from the state to school districts.
I have one more question. If that is for the enrollment, you said minus 23 for this year, but it wasn't minus 23. So you still left that in the slide this way.
Yeah, Mountain View's, their data show the increase, right? But this is overall district. So one of the things we're trying to do internally is when we look at those numbers, enrollment and CalPADS data, and it gets reported and then it gets certified, some changes are made, or being very consistent with those numbers. So yeah.
And then where do you get this? Like from the demographer or what?
Yeah, Jack Trader and Associates, and I can provide you.
We have the old report from them that goes out this far.
Yeah, and so really all that's done in that enrollment, it's very transparent. -69, -88 come just from the delta, the change in from year to year from that, in that demographic study. And so it's not the absolute number that I'm targeting, it's just looking at the trend and the change year to year. So if it's increasing, I would follow, in terms of planning purposes, what the change is year to year. And that's where those numbers come from. Because I'm not a demographer, so I always like to point to.
I was going to say, you knew the other numbers, but where'd you come up with those?
Yeah, that's exactly. I can show you the page and line where those, the chart where those numbers come from.
Okay.
And we were tracking pretty well. They do a low, most likely a high, and we were tracking pretty well on the high trend for that demographic study.
Okay, so I'm hearing silence. Is there a motion to approve resolution 21/22-14, first interim budget report and budget revisions for 21-22?
I move adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion, a second from Phil and Catherine. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, all of us. Thank you for being here. Congratulations on your first presentation.
Yeah. And sorry that you kept so late.
Well, but it's not midnight. Mike's right. It's not midnight. It's not midnight. Okay, so this takes us to item 19.1, which is our annual organization meeting. So at this moment, I have to give the gavel to Dr. Meyer, right? Because this is the 5 minutes in time where we don't have a board president, right? Because you actually get to run our election meeting.
Okay, let's run.
So, if you want to ask for a motion, well, you know what to do probably.
Yes. Our Ed Code Section 35143 and 72125 require that the governing board of each school district hold an annual reorganization session meeting recommendation. With that being said, is there any discussion?
I'll make a nomination.
Seeing no discussion, a nomination? Fiona?
I'd love to nominate Catherine for president and Debbie for vice president. If I go down the line, Phil's next in line to be clerk, yeah? Which means that I get to go sit down by Riley. So that's my motion. 1, 2, 3.
We have a motion for Catherine for president, Debbie for vice president, and Phil for clerk. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Sanjay. And all in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Just had to do that. Thank you. Congratulations, Catherine. Congratulations, Debbie. Congratulations, Phil. Congratulations, Fiona. Okay, this is wonderful. I really didn't want to let go.
You know, as I take the gavel though, I would like to say a few words about our past president. 2 minutes ago, Fiona. Fiona has been an exemplary president all this year. She has experience. She's been the president of this board in the past as well as an elementary school district president. She's very good at it. She's a very good meeting manager. She's a very good mentor to me, as I wrote down to her, in all things board. And in all procedural things as well as general philosophies about the board and the goals of any school district and specifically ours, and management of the trials and tribulations of coming back to school, reopening in the midst, I would say in the midst of COVID as it got somewhat better, and then managing the situation as we're still dealing with COVID on an ongoing basis. I really appreciate it, and all of the rest of the board do. And from the 4 of us, we would like you to have this card and thank you, present of our appreciation.
These are so nice. Let me do it.
I kind of said in the card, but I couldn't have picked a better person to hand off the gavel last year after everything was going to basically take us out of the pandemic. So I appreciate that very much. It was a fantastic, smooth landing that we had. So it was great, and it was terrific job.
Thank you very much. Could you guys not make up your mind? This is really generous. There's 4 gift cards here. There's 4 gift cards here.
There's more dogs,
Yeah, I think of the name. Yeah, my pup can go places in a month.
In case you wanted to know, we gave her gift certificates to various restaurants, some in Los Altos and some in Mountain View, but all dog accepted.
Oh.
Yeah. On the patio.
Those are
friendly.
so nice. So nice. Thank
I
you.
just have one other thing to say, in light of the last year with all the emotions that were involved from the community, from staff, and how the emotions all of us felt, your demeanor and your calm professionalism kind of made it all easier for me. I don't know if the rest of the board too, but it just felt like we were being led by someone who was representing us and on a very calming nature that just made it feel like we were going to get through, and we did. So I just really appreciate you making my life, I believe all of our lives, a little bit easier during a very difficult time, because I know we all felt very emotional with the polls that we were all getting. And it was nice having you at the helm to be able to speak on our behalf. And I think you did an awesome job. Thank you.
You guys are very nice. I think most of you in the room know that this board is very active beyond our board. We're active at the county level. We pay attention at the state level. And I think we're a unique crew because all of you got me through this year, right? I needed each and every one of you at various points to say, okay, wait, what about this? Or how do we do this? Or what's that? And Nellie has been amazing, absolutely amazing. And so just 1,000 thanks. Terry, Mike, Layla for answering a million questions all the time, and Debbie keeping us running. So, but no, I really did. I mean, I leaned on every single one of you, and I'm very grateful for that.
I just want to add to what everyone else has said. I certainly agree with all of that. But there's one thing I think that you brought that I don't think any of the rest of us could. And that was you were relentlessly cheerful. Relentlessly cheerful through the darkest times. And whenever I get an email from you, you always end it with cheers.
Yeah.
That is you. So thank you for being you. A great one.
You guys are welcome. This is super generous, you guys. Thank you so much. And these are all my favorite places. How did you know Steins? I mean, Steins is one of my very favorite places. Oh my gosh.
Okay, we're almost done with the recognition. We have a few more things. I wanted to say I wrote some things down and many of you said some of the same comments, but I just have to share from a personal standpoint. In 3 years, with 3 very different presidents who did fantastic jobs, I've never seen 3 more different years in my entire career, and you all handled it with such grace and elegance. And I want to say that it was a pleasure and an honor working with you, Fiona. So collaborative. You led with intelligence, and when you looked out to those who were suffering, with empathy. And that was so important to all of us. And you worked as such a united team over the last 3 years, and this year you brought us all back to normalcy. And we started our way, and then through the ugly time, and it took different skills, and you really used everyone's skills so beautifully together, oaring in the same direction. So with that, I have a few things to share on behalf of the district. I'd like you to have something to remember this to put on your bookcase up above, away from Nisa, so it doesn't fall.
Oh my gosh.
But just
great.
something
That.
beautiful.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
And then I think
Oh my
that
gosh.
the bags keep getting bigger. But here we have something, a few little things from our staff team and from all of us to
Oh, look at you. Yay. Oh, it's a book.
Oh, the graduation.
No, it's I think it's Flight's dedication at.
Oh, yeah.
And graduation, but yeah, it's the year in review perhaps.
Mhm.
Oh, how
Wonderful.
fun.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
Very
And
nice.
some pictures. Thank goodness we have a superintendent's report so that you can collect them all. I
I need to retro the last 2 years.
It's so fun. So all this is math. I love it.
You're all in there. There's a good one.
And all these pictures with people in math. This is the way to remember too. Won't forget what year it was.
Oh, so cute.
Oh, golden.
I have a golden super puppy right now, and that's my fur. So yeah, I'm definitely a golden. Oh, come on. Thank you guys. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Yes, you guys. It's okay. I'll read that. Thank you, everybody, so much. You make this, I mean, this team makes this seat easier than in other districts. I mean, really, it's not this way everywhere.
No.
Districts that really struggle. So
Well, welcome. I have to say that I appreciate being elected to be the president, and I look forward to the opportunity to serve the board and the district and the community at large this year in this new capacity. And I hope I do well. So let's see, what do we have next here? We have a secretary for the year, and generally speaking, the superintendent serves as the secretary for the year, but we need a motion to that effect. So do I have a motion?
I move that we elect Dr. Meyer as the secretary for the 2022 calendar year.
Second. Second. So we have a motion from Sanjay and a second from, I guess that from you? Yeah, sure. From Fiona to elect Dr. Nellie Meyer as the secretary to the Board of Trustees for the 22 calendar year.
Yes, I accept. Thank you very much. Thank you for the nomination.
Second. Okay. And next, we have in the board packet.
Oh, hold on, we have to vote on. We have to vote on that.
Yes. Have to vote, yes. All those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed? No, you didn't oppose.
We all say aye, then pause.
Did you oppose? Nobody.
No,
opposed.
you would say aye.
That's a 5-0 vote. All right, so I have myself already. Next, we will have a review of the regular meeting dates for the Board of Trustees. And they were in your packet.
When you accept resolution number 2122-16 for regular meetings.
Okay, I just want to make a quick note. We did talk about that Valentine's Day meeting and starting it much earlier in the afternoon, probably at 3:30 or 4 o'clock start, so that we all still have the evening with families, if it works out for all of us at the time.
With that comment, do we have a motion? Oh, you made this, sorry.
Right,
Debbie made the motion.
Sanjay already seconded.
Sanjay, okay, that was Debbie and Sanjay. So now, all those in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0 also. All right. Now, this will be a fun one. The board committee assignments for this coming year. And at page 381 were the ones from last year. And for the community, all of us have board assignments. There's different committees, countywide, school district wide, and then other organizations like PTAs and so on, that the board, 1 or 2 members, attend those meetings and follow that particular group. So should we go down the list, or people want to just shout out what they are interested in doing, or how do you want to handle that? Should we start at the top?
Yeah, let's start at the top.
Okay, check.
And we want to add 3, right? So
Yeah,
we'll get to bottom,
and we're
we'll add
also
3.
going to add, as it says in the agenda, we're going to add green team, DLAC, and that new one that Dr. Meyer mentioned, the Family Partnership Council.
And how many can be on each one of those?
2
each
can
one?
be on
Each one.
each
Okay,
of those
2 for each.
Mhm. At the same time. Right. So, Jack, Phil, are you still the president
Yeah, I'm
of Jack?
still the president, so I should probably.
You're gonna miss the meeting because I'm your alternate.
You know, it's hard to miss a meeting
I know.
with Zoom.
All right. Just remember I'm here. for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
I'm
And
still the alternate.
yeah.
Is there a mid-year opportunity? Are you completing your term at
June.
in
June 30th,
June?
it'll be
Okay, so
done.
there might be a mid-year opportunity for Debbie to take a
We
turn
can
on
switch in
chat,
June.
or
Oh, I'd love to try that.
I think that would be,
I know.
Thank you for being president of that, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we'll have Phil till June, and then we'll have Debbie from June on for CHAC. MVLA Foundation, would you like to stay on? Would someone else like to be the alternative, or do you want me to?
If you're willing to give it up, I would take the alternate.
Okay.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. It's first, is it still first Wednesdays? Is that right? Is that accurate for when foundation's meeting?
7:30.
It's 7:30.
First Wednesday.
Yeah, if you're willing to give it up, I'd love to be the alternate. I just think
you can
that
have
would be
it.
fun.
You may
Okay.
have it.
Sometimes it's on a different day if there's a
Okay.
conflict, but it's
Okay,
usually
so
the first.
Fiona will be the alternate on that. All right, MVLA PTA Council,
This is now you, because this is always board president.
that's traditionally the board president, so I guess that would be me. Who would like to be the alternate for that?
Okay, you're actually listed as the alternate, Sanjay, but you can put me in as alternate. That's fine, Catherine.
Fiona on the alternate on that. Okay, the Santa Clara County Committee on District Organization, that would be me. Santa Clara County School Board Association.
I need to keep this until June when I roll off as president. And then if anybody else is interested in, officially being the rep, I'm more than happy to hand over the official rep position, but also we can all go anytime, right? And we have been doing that. So, but if somebody wants it in June, I can hand it off and somebody can be the official rep.
One of the meetings.
They are
Fourth
Wednesday,
7:30.
7:30 to 9. And then miscellaneous, but not mandatory, lunchtime gatherings or speaker panels and things.
Nobody wants to say anything else about that now? Okay. All right, Partnership Council.
It hasn't met, so maybe we
Yeah.
should just continue.
Okay, Phil and I can still continue. Challenge Team. I always go anyway.
Yep, I go.
And Fiona goes.
Sanjay often goes.
You often go.
Yeah. So, but anybody can go.
Anybody can go. Right. Mount View High PTSA. Right now you have it, Debbie, and Sanjay's your alternate.
Yeah, I go to both of them, so I plan to still go to both of them, so it doesn't matter. If anybody wants.
Okay. How about Los Altos High PTSA?
I'm listed as the alternate, but Debbie, if you're going anyway, maybe we pop you in there as alternate. I truly don't care. We're not.
Well, or do you want to move up? Do you want to be? No, you're already going to Mount View. I can stick with Los Altos, or Fiona, you can move up to there. I don't care.
Okay, yeah, I just don't want to I think we're all being very flexible about this. I think, we just need to designate somebody, and right, because we do give a quick little update at Los Altos, at least. Mountain View doesn't always do that, right? But Los Altos always does a little one. Oh,
Yeah.
Mountain View does too.
Well, do you want to do the update or me?
I don't care. I will take it. I will
You
take
have
Los
plenty
Altos.
to do.
Or I can do both of them, I don't care.
Okay, why don't we swap? Okay, Fiona.
I'll swap.
Okay. Then we say the City of Mountain View Youth Services Committee rep is not required to attend.
Right.
But if we find out about it and somebody wants to go, they can't. We'll
Yeah,
put
City
out a
Mountain View
notice.
always sends that out there. We get those agendas all the, or at least I do. If you're on the e-list for City Mountain View, you see those
Yeah.
agendas.
Okay, Mountain View City Council meetings.
I think, don't we do that as needed?
Yeah, this is very much as needed. I don't go to every Tuesday, and I think we all, depending on who figures out that something's coming, or if Mike or Nelly tell us that something's coming, that's fine.
It should just be all of it.
Yeah, I think it should
We'll
really
just
be
put
all
as
of them.
needed and put all. Yeah.
As many as can make it. Yeah.
Well, and sometimes there needs to be a strong
spokesperson, yeah.
presence.
Yeah.
For, to support certain issues. Superintendent's board policy review.
Does anybody want this? I've been on it forever. If anybody wants to jump in, it doesn't.
I want to stay on it because there's a couple of policies that I've been kind of following that I'd like to see come to their changes come to fruition.
Okay.
You know, and we kind of got, I won't say behind, but didn't aggressively address some of those because of COVID and all.
I just wanted to throw it out there. If anybody else wants to jump on, I'm happy to yield my spot.
Okay, well, we'll just
Doesn't sound like it. Okay.
Okay, we'll
Not
keep on
hot.
those. The facilities committee, I want to stay on that one more year.
I've been on 2 years now, so I'm fine if somebody wants to.
I'll go back on if nobody else is dying to get on it. I would love to jump back on, but Bill, I don't think you've even had a chance to get on. And Debbie, I'm thinking it doesn't fit your time
Yeah, I
schedule.
think this is.
It's at 8 o'clock on Thursday.
Bill, did you want to do it? Otherwise, Fiona will take it back.
They're great meetings, I have to say. They're really, really good meetings.
Mhm. And I kind of like the idea, well, of course, it depends on who takes the other position of kind of hopscotching over, like each person on 2 years. So you're with the person that's been on it for a while and has some history, and then you trade off, and then a person that doesn't have a history is on with you if you want to do it. Otherwise, Fiona wants to come back on.
I'm not sure who we're talking to.
You.
We're talking to you.
Whether you
That's
want
what I was.
did you want to go on it or not?
Are we talking about facilities?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do
All right. And then wellness.
I like being on that committee.
Well, I
When does wellness meet?
4:30 to.
4 to 5 or 5:30 on Wednesday.
It's usually every other month or something.
Every other month.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I've done it for a couple of years now.
Catherine, do you want me to jump on? I mean, I'm just thinking you're gonna have board president stuff that's gonna be
I know, so
extra above and beyond. Do you want me to jump on?
yeah, you go ahead and do it then.
Okay.
I mean, I love it and I hate to give it up, but
Yeah, I got to
you
sub in
can't
this past time.
you
I
can
like
do
to
anything you want, you just can't do everything. So this is maybe one of those other things I can't,
Yeah.
I can give to you to do for a while. All right. Los Altos City Council, I think that could be the same
Right.
situation
I agree. We should take our new
as needed.
Yeah.
As needed, and then there's some cases where Phil and Debbie, since you're the ones that live in Los Altos, you would be the ones that.
But as with
Yeah, that's
Mountain
fine.
View, there are probably occasions where more of us should show up.
Yeah. Okay, now we have the new ones. Green Team.
This meets quarterly with students. And it could be it's new, so it could be one person.
Is it live or Zoom, you know, it's gonna be?
We haven't had our first yet, but I believe it would be, we're looking to have it live. We're rotating between Mountain View, between the 2 comprehensive high schools and the district office.
Probably would be in the middle of the day. too.
Yeah.
I'd like to be on it. I think if it's quarterly and I know advance, I mean, if we get 2 people, but.
Yeah. Bill, were you trying to raise your hand? Did you want to be on this as well?
I'll be happy to take Green Tea.
Okay, so that's you and Debbie then? That's fine.
Yeah, that's great. Phil and Debbie. Right, now, DLAC. Well, there's DLAC and Family Partnership, both of them left, and I'd like to be on at least, on one of them, and probably makes more sense to be on Family Partnership. But I like both. Who else would like to be on either one of those?
I'll do that. That'd be
Yeah,
fine.
I'll do you.
Okay.
Okay, so Sanjay and Fiona are gonna do DLAC. And then
Partnership.
well, and actually the original paradigm that Michelle was thinking of was the president and the vice president, and that would be the 2 of us. So
That's fine with
that's
me.
perfect.
That's another quarter. How often is that one meet?
It's more quarterly.
More quarterly too.
And that first one she mentioned,
January 31st.
January 31st. Okay, so does that work out for everyone so far? And it says info action.
Yeah, I think we get to vote on it.
So do you want me to review what we said? Or do you think you have it? We can always revise it if,
Actually, the most important person has to have it, so I think that.
Debbie, right?
Debbie has it, okay.
She has it, yeah.
All right, so if you've got it, then we're good to go. I would entertain a motion to,
I move we approve the committee appointments as presented in our discussion.
Second.
okay, so we have Phil and Fiona. A motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? That would be a 5-0 vote also. All right, then we have 19.5, which is the district representative to the 2022 Annual County Committee on District Organization Election. What? That's what it is. This one. California code requires that the governing board of each school district at its annual initial meeting select one of its members to vote in the election for members of the county committee on school district organization pursuant to Ed Code.
I forgot it was a separate one. I moved that we elect board president Catherine Vonnegut to the county committee on district organization.
Okay, that was quick. Any discussion on the purpose or that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's a 5-0 vote. And that was. Now, the way our district is organized, we have this other thing called a district financing corporation. And so we have to have an organizational meeting for that. And so at this time, I will temporarily adjourn the regular meeting of MVLA School Board and commence the District Financing Corporation meeting.
At 10:35.
At
the only other thing, yeah.
10:35. So the summary, it says that we did that part. We will adjourn that regular meeting, conduct business as the board of directors of the MVLA High School District Financing Corporation. So I call that meeting to order. Now we need to appoint new officers, which I believe I would need a motion for. May I have a motion to appoint new officers for the Finance Corporation?
I believe we usually use the same officers as the board, so I move that we appoint you as president, Debbie as vice president, and I do.
And yourself as clerk.
I think we do a clerk, and then I don't know if we have to have one, but I think we've done 3 in the past.
Same officers. In other
Same
words.
officers, yeah. Second.
Second, so Phil has moved and Fiona seconded that we have the same officers as the rest of the MVLA work, which would be me as the president, Debbie as the vice president, and Phil as the clerk. Is there any public comment on that issue or situation? Okay, all those in favor of this officer election, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Oh.
Yeah, we did. Fiona
I think I
seconded.
seconded it, yeah.
Phil moved and Fiona seconded. Okay, so that is a 5-0 vote. Is there any other business that we need to consider as the finance corporation at this time? No, Mike says no. Okay, so I'll adjourn the Finance District Corporation organizational meeting at 10:36. 37, you think it's 37? 10:36. That was a short meeting. Okay. All right, we're back to our regular MVLA board meeting. So a review of calendar events. Do any of the trustees or the superintendent have any calendar events they would like to review? Say anything about?
We have the holiday party.
Oh, that's right, Wednesday.
Oh, yes.
Wednesday. The tea at 2 o'clock.
Ugly sweater.
Ugly sweater. I
That's
know. That's like my favorite Christmas sweater.
Red. I'll be over it. I can maybe make it.
And then final.
Make a nice one. Are we here? Is it here? Is it Ulta?
We're hoping to be
Oh, the
outside,
playground.
if not, we're going to be in here and
Maybe rain, right?
yeah, so we
Yeah.
have two plans. But it will be in here
It's Wednesday, right?
Wednesday.
Yeah.
At 2.
Oh, I was requested, so Judy Hanman requested if former board members can attend. Usually they attend.
Oh, she loves to
the
come to
holiday
this.
parties.
Oh, great. She loves to come to
Okay,
this.
yeah,
So I did forward the email to her, but I don't know whether the other board members, if any of us are in touch with.
Oh, we can,
We did.
Nice to invite Joe back.
yeah, we can find Joe and Sue. Where's
Joe.
And
Sue?
Sue, yeah.
So,
Susan, yeah.
and Julia.
And is there a white elephant exchange this time or not? Is it,
No.
it's a straight tea, okay, so
Yeah.
no exchange, okay.
Okay, so is there any
sweaters for better though?
any other calendar events? That was information, so we'll move on to 21.2, which is communications correspondence. Is there any other correspondence or communications from any
None at this time.
board members? No. All right, we'll move on to board suggestions for future board reports or meetings. Does any board member have any at this time?
I think the plate is pretty full.
All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. The date and the time of the next and place of the next meeting, we will meet January 10th in a new year, 2022, and right here in the district boardroom. Okay, and since we've already approved 19.3, we do need indeed know that that's the date on the calendar. So that's information only. Any questions? No? Okay. So we do not need to resume closed session. So we are ready for adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Okay. So Sanjay has moved and Fiona has seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Wait, don't go
We did it, we did it. Bang the gavel,
All right.
gavel,
Yes.
gavel, bang the gavel.
At 10:40.
You always say we down. Here we go.
Very much. So appreciate you having